This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
And Barbaro struts his stuff. It is Barbaro to the final furlong. He is a neck in front of Sharp Humor, who will not go away. Barbaro only a head in front. Sharp Humor runs his heart out at the rail. Sun River a closing third. Barbaro, Sharp Humor. Barbaro's got him. Barbaro wins.
Here they come into the stretch of the Arkansas Derby, and it is Smarty Jones who takes command and draws clear by 3 lengths. Burge is still second. Borrego now moves to the middle in third. Smarty Jones leads it by 3.5 and is pulling away. They're driving toward the wire. It is Smarty Jones by 3. Borrego trying to make one lane move. Pro Prado at the rail. Smarty Jones leading by 2. It is Smarty Jones. One step more to Kentucky.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
An American Pharaoh is putting on a show. He has not been asked the question, but everyone knows the answer. He is indeed the ruler. American Pharaoh, breathtaking in a mesmerizing performance as he dominates the Arkansas Derby.
Nyquist has moved away. Mohayman has no answer today. On the inside is Mahesto, and then comes Fellowship. Nyquist drifting out to the center of the track, but he's far in front. And Nyquist is still unbeaten. He has won the Florida Derby.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. Welcome to the Equine Forum here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, all presented by our friends at TwinSpires. The final Saturday in the month of March, meaning we are just 5 weeks away from the Run for the Roses, the first Saturday in May, coming up quickly, and a lot of Derby implications on the line later this afternoon. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, happy to have you in the starting gate with me right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Historically, there has been no better prep race if you want to win the Kentucky Derby than the Florida Derby, which is going to be renewed at Gulfstream Park this afternoon. 25 horses have come from the Florida Derby to win the Kentucky Derby. The last to do it, Mage, in 2023. 15 horses have won both races. Mage did not win the Florida Derby, but he beat everybody when it really, really counted. The Arkansas Derby has produced 8, including last year's winner, Mystic Dan, who also did not win the Arkansas Derby. So you don't have to win these races today, but just running in them and having a good effort to punch your ticket to Louisville goes a long way, historically, to finding yourself in the winner's circle. More so in the Florida Derby, certainly, than the Arkansas Derby. By the way, if you're wondering which prep races are second behind the Florida Derby, you have the Bluegrass with 23, but it's been a while. 2007, the last time a horse came out of the Bluegrass to win the Kentucky Derby. I'm going to talk more about that race later in the show with Keeneland Vice President of Racing Gatewood Bell when he joins me in hour number 2. Of course, the Bluegrass being renewed next Saturday at Keeneland in Lexington. The Champagne, believe it or not, has also produced 23 Kentucky Derby winners. The last horse to do that, Super Saver, in 2010, did not win the Champagne, went on later in the season to capture the Kentucky Derby. So my poll question for you this morning: which race is more likely to produce this year's Kentucky Derby winner? Would it be the Florida Derby or would it be the Arkansas Derby? Which of today's races is more likely to produce this year's Kentucky Derby winner? You can go to our X page, that's at HRRN on X. You can go to Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to cast your vote. And if you don't do social media, email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and let me know your thoughts. The former, the Florida Derby, we're looking at a couple of very significant rider changes in there. Manny Franco is subbing for the injured Junior Alvarado aboard Sovereignty, who is likely to be the favorite. And Hall of Famer Mike Smith is stepping in for Tyler Gaffalione on Mattakit Road after Tyler was injured this past week. So 2 really prominent horses in that Florida Derby attracting new riders this afternoon due to injuries from their regular riders. Amy Zimmerman, who works with Santa Anita and NBC, put out a very interesting, at least I thought it was very interesting, tweet this week. She said jockey Mike Smith, who is going to be aboard Mattakit Road, won his first Florida Derby in 1994, the Great Holy Bull, by the way. That's the same year that Mattakit Road's original jockey, Tyler Gaffalione, was born. It's also the same year Manny Franco was born. And as I mentioned, Franco stepping in for Junior Alvarado aboard Sovereignty. I found that really interesting. Here's a guy in Mike Smith, still a guy that you don't want to leave on the sidelines in these big races, right? He's one of the greatest of all time. And now he's getting an opportunity. He rides very selectively now, but now he's getting an opportunity to be aboard the Bob Baffert Mattakit Road. And as I mentioned, that Florida Derby, very productive. If Mattakit Road can find a way to run a big race later today, he's a horse that you probably shouldn't overlook when they get to Louisville, just based on, strictly on history. Now, Mattakit Road comes out of the Grade 2 Rebel, where he was second behind Coal Battle at Oaklawn on February 23rd. Coal Battle is going to be among the favorites in the Arkansas Derby this afternoon. And that's a fantastic story. Maybe the story of this year's Kentucky Derby from a human interest perspective. Trainer Lonnie Briley, 72 years old, has already qualified for the Kentucky Derby with Coal Battle. He has 70 points. So coming into today, he's number 4 on the Derby points list. Lonnie Briley has never had a horse like this, but he's been around a lot of good horses in his career. He's just never trained one as good as Coal Battle. And he had a hand in picking him out at the sales for owner Robbie Norman. It's a really, really cool story. And Lonnie's going to be with me to tell that story coming up in hour number 2, right around 9:20 Eastern. So stay tuned for that. Really looking forward to visiting with Lonnie Briley, who is really excited. He's dealing with this media attention for the very first time in what has been a very lengthy career for him in racing. And I love those kinds of stories. So looking forward to visiting with Lonnie. Also going to hear from trainer Brad Cox. He's going to be prominent on the Derby Trail, not just this weekend, but he was last weekend with some big wins. The Oaks Trail as well. Let's not forget about the ladies. You'll hear from Brad Cox in this week's Kentucky Bred Conversation coming up in hour 2, right around 9:45-ish or so. Brian Nadeau is the handicapper at Gulfstream Park. He's with me this morning to walk through not just the Florida Derby, but what is a really, really solid undercard. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. You're also going to hear from former Kentucky Senator Damon Thayer. He'll be with me this morning. He's going to talk about the business side of racing. Decoupling front and center in Florida right now. We've talked about that several times over the past few weeks. We're going to continue to talk about it as situations develop. I'll do it with Damon here this morning. But also the Seattle Times coming out with a story this week indicating that Emerald Downs, located in Washington State, just outside of Seattle, may have some very difficult times ahead following the news of increasing HISA fees that they would be required to pay. And according to the report, Emerald Downs' fees would increase by as much as 89% next year, going from $712,000 to more than $1.34 million. That's a big chunk for a small track to bite off. And it causes great uncertainty, not just with the Seattle track, but now fear is growing that Emerald Downs won't be the only small track that's going to have to face these types of challenges financially. And how do they deal with those? Will they be forced to close? You hate to see some of these smaller tracks go away, but this is a reality that's facing them. I'm going to talk with Damon about that situation too. He was, when he, in his time in Kentucky serving in the Senate, he was very involved in watching the HISA legislation unfold. So we're going to talk to Damon about that. He'll give us an inside take as to what's happening there and what might be done by the industry to stave off some of these situations. How can this be avoided? Not just with Emerald Downs, but with several small tracks. So that conversation comes up at 9 o'clock Eastern. Here's the full schedule for you here this morning. When I come back after this first break, you're going to hear from Jake and Jeff Delhomme. That's the brother tandem behind Touchuponastar, who upset Sierra Leone in last weekend's New Orleans Classic. It's an incredible story. Touchuponastar, Louisiana-bred, wins on the big stage. He was second in the race a year ago, not second this year. And you can say, yeah, Barron, but the field was scratched down to what? Was there 5 starters in the race? Doesn't matter. You still got to jump up and run your race, and boy, did he ever. Oh, well, they ran it in Louisiana at the fairgrounds. He loves that track. Okay. He still beat the 3-year-old champ. He still beat Hall of Fame, who's a pretty darn nice horse. And Touchuponastar, pretty legit. Whether he goes on to face Open Company and graded stakes later this year, probably will. Will he have the same success? Who knows? But last Saturday, Jake and Jeff Delhomme. Jake, former NFL quarterback, played in the Super Bowl. His brother Jeff trains the horse. His dad's involved in the operation. It's a pretty awesome story. They celebrated as a family at the fairgrounds last weekend, and you're going to hear from them coming up in just a little bit. They took time yesterday to visit with me for an extended interview. Again, Brian Nadeau, 8:35, 9 o'clock. Damon Thayer, 9:20. Trainer Lonnie Briley, 9:35-ish or so. You're going to hear from Gatewood Bell, Keeneland Vice President of Racing, looking ahead to next weekend's big stakes and, of course, the entire spring meet. Our Kentucky bred conversation with Brad Cox at 9:48. 10 o'clock Eastern, James Scully with the TwinSpires Triple Play. 3 races you can watch and wager at TwinSpires this afternoon. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on a stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, Dale and Tim join me for I Ask, They Answer. So a very busy show as always. It is time now to go to our producer, Lee Delapina, for this week's Impossible Trivia question. Lee?
All right, thanks, Mike. Since today is Florida Derby Day, here's a question in honor of the Florida Derby. What other race was originally known as the Florida Derby until the name was changed in 1937? No Googling. Stay tuned to the end of the show for the answer.
There you have it. The answer coming up right around 10:55 Eastern before we wrap things up for you here this morning on the Equine Forum. When I come back, Jake and Jeff Delhomme, I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
His sire is one of the most exciting young stallions in the world. His dam has become one of the most important brood mares in the industry. And on the first Saturday in May, his genetic brilliance shined brightest on racing's biggest stage.
They come into the final 16, and it is going to be Mage to win the Kentucky Derby.
Mage, standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
Experience the Keeneland Florida Derby at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, March 29th as world-class thoroughbreds compete on the road to the Triple Crown right here in Allendale. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
3 furlongs from the winning line for Touchuponastar, the Louisiana-bred leader coming toward the top of the stretch from Hall of Fame, who's staying close there as they come toward the top of the stretch. Then Comorbino Amoide, San Siro, and Sierra Leone is last to make the top of this daunting fairground stretch, where the longtime leader has been Touchuponastar. 3/4, 1 minute 10.78 seconds. It is the millionaire Touchuponastar for Tim Thornton and leads Hall of Fame by 3. Now Sierra Leone is into third, past San Siro and Comorbino Amoide, but past the 16th, it is Touchuponastar with his biggest win to date. Touchuponastar, the Louisiana-bred winner of the New Orleans Classic. Wire to wire, Touchuponastar from Hall of Fame. Sierra Leone finished third, well clear.
John Dooley with the call. You want to talk about a hometown hero. You got him. Touchuponastar with that massive win last Saturday on the Louisiana Derby undercard. It came in the Grade 2 New Orleans Classic, as you heard John reference in his call. The 6-year-old gelded son of Star Guitar, so impressive, taking down Sierra Leone and everybody else with a spectacular performance for owner Jake Delhomme and his brother, trainer Jeff Delhomme. It's a wonderful story, and they are both with me now here on the Equine Forum. Let's go ahead and start with you, Jake. Congratulations on that huge win, my friend.
Man, thanks so much. Yeah, certainly it was a huge win, and it was fantastic, being in New Orleans. We love racing at the fairgrounds, and Touch has really done well at the fairgrounds. And, we were taking a shot. We certainly respect all the opponents in that race, and Hall of Fame was really doing well, and we know how much Steve Asmussen has thought of him, and certainly Sierra Leone. I'm a big fan of his, and I said it after the race, and I said it before. I had a huge future Derby wager on him last year. I love the horse, and big fan of his, and we were taking a shot, running on our home track, and, being so close to home, and, Sierra Leone coming off of somewhat of a little layoff. So, hey, let's take a shot, see if we can do something.
Put me there with you last Saturday. What was it like watching him come through the stretch?
Well, it was before that, to be quite honest. I think it was a year's worth of, I know for me, celebration, but pent-up frustration. I think last year in the New Orleans Classic, I think Touch ran a marvelous race. We hooked up with Best Actor, and we cruised around there at 22, 46, and he put everybody away in Red Route 1. Had a good trip, and he's a closer, and he was able to catch us. We just didn't have enough to finish, and all credit goes to him. And I know for me, I wanted it so bad for the horse, for Touch. And so entered in this race, kind of caught wind of a few. There was 3 horses that were cross-entered in the Essex at Oaklawn, and kind of caught wind maybe another 1 or 2 of the speed horses. We're kind of waiting to see maybe what we were going to do, because we were going to go to the front. And they scratched, and we went to the front. And that 24-second opening quarter, that made my heart jump pretty good. And then 47-2. And I know for me, it wasn't through the stretch. It was in the turn. Watching Timmy ride, not just Touch, but many horses over the years, you just kind of know. And he pulled all his goggles down in the turn. And when he pulled all his goggles down, something just came over me. I'm like, oh, my gosh, he's loaded. And you look to see what's coming, and it didn't look like anything was moving, really fast at him, or gaining ground, I should say. And so, yeah, I mean, he switched leads and he went on. It was euphoric. Jumping up and down. It was awesome. And it was a huge crowd. And listen, he was a local favorite, the Louisiana bred. But I think the big thing is he was a 6-year-old. They've seen him for 3 and 4 years running, and things like that. So we lose horses so fast, but because they go off to stud. But for someone like him, he's a gelding that hopefully we can keep around for a few more years running at that level. I know that's a tough task, but I think that was just everything, and you could just feel the excitement. And certainly, we're on cloud 9.
Jeff, how about for you? As you know this horse better than anybody. You're with him day in and day out. You have been for, as Jake alluded to, now he's a 6-year-old. You've done it for a long time. What was it like for you as he's coming through the stretch, and when you see him cross the finish line, what was that moment like?
Well, it's kind of – Jake and I are almost close to being the same person. We both see things kind of like with the same set of glasses on. And when like what Jake said, when Timmy pulled those goggles down, it's like my little boy was standing on the side of me. I picked him up, spun him around a couple of times, then I put him down. I'm looking, I said, oh, my goodness, we still have 2 furlongs to go. I said, did I celebrate too early and just, glanced at everyone else and just – it was, a dream come true, to be able to not only have a horse of that caliber to run against guys like Chad Brown, Steve Asmussen, just to feel that you can even compete with them, and to have my little boy there with me, the whole family there, a packed, winner circle. It was great. I'm going to remember this forever, but it was just a really great weekend.
Yeah, talk about the family side of it, because this was one of the parts of the story that really stood out to me, to be able to celebrate these type of moments and this type of success together, not just with your brother, but with your entire family. Talk about that, guys. Jeff, I'll start with you. Tell me what that's like for you.
Well, it's almost like a everyday event for us. We see each other every day. My daddy, Jake, myself, we see each other at the track every morning. We go visit at my mom's, dad's in the afternoon, walk over to Jake's. He walks over to mine. So we really enjoy and appreciate our family. And, don't let a day go by not appreciating that. So to have them there at the big races, it's a normal thing. But to celebrate with them at a different level, that makes it even special. Trying to explain to my 10-year-old son who loves the racehorses, trying to explain, hey, you probably will never experience this again. Most people don't experience this, especially at the level that we play out. Sure, we try to get the best horses available, but we're in the Louisiana bred system. We run in Louisiana. We buy Louisiana breds. We were just lucky enough that Jake followed this horse as a young horse, following him to the Dallas sale, and we got lucky. Everything worked out. So,
Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I echo those sentiments. Like Jeff said, it's something we do every day. It's something that ever since, football worked out for me, our grandfather, spoke better French than English. And back then in the bush tracks and things of that nature, it was the quarter horse world, and he owned some bush tracks. And so horses were always kind of, what we did. Jeff and I went to school, we played sports, and certainly we did the horses. We didn't hunt, fish, and golf. That wasn't kind of how we were raised. And so as time went on, football kind of helped me expand. And we went to the thoroughbred operation in 1993. And once I retired after the 2011 season, probably got into it a lot more hands-on because I moved back home and I was able to kind of be here and we kind of expanded a little bit. Dad ended up retiring from his job. Dad worked for the state, so he retired when he became of age for that. And so it's been us three, and we got a couple other people that work for us, a couple of grooms, but it's a ton of fun. And, yeah, we get on each other's nerves, rightfully so, right? But we all kind of look through the same lens, so to speak, listening to Dad, following Dad growing up. And, Jeff and I, certainly we make our own opinions also, but we all come from, if you go back to it, it's all going to be the common denominator. We kind of see things a lot of the same way, so to speak. Not all the time, but that's just the way it goes. And we just try to do what's right by the horse. And I guess the lucky thing is we really and truly don't have to answer to anybody else. We only train one horse outside, and in essence, that's for Mr. Kale, was raised like another father to us. And, he's in his 70s. And so, we don't have to answer to anybody. We can give horses time, like Touch. We've given him the summer off the last few years, 2 years, not because he was injured, just by design. I mean, that's just, we want to keep him around a while, and he runs hard for us, and we try to reward him with that. But having everyone there, that was awesome. It was great. But I think more of the fans, he's really developed a strong following because he's been a very impressive horse. It's a lot of his wins have been impressive, and he's a beautiful, majestic animal, especially when he walks into the paddock and gets saddled. He just stands there. He just stands and kind of overlooks everything and never gets rattled. And that's the thing that's so cool about it.
Jake, the last time you joined me on this program, you told me that when we talked about your approach and your philosophy to set hut racing, you said, I'm all about Louisiana. I'm hoping one day to have a Louisiana bred that could go out and compete in open graded stakes races. Well, mission accomplished here. Do you see yourself taking Touchuponastar outside of Louisiana to compete in some other graded stakes?
Yeah, you know what? There's a chance. We're going to let him tell us. He's been back to the track a few days this week, and knock on wood, he came out of the race great, and he looks happy and healthy. And we'll see. There's some sites I kind of have maybe. Listen, we run second in the Steve Sexton Mile at Lone Stars the last 2 years, and he's run awesome in both of those races. And that's a tough race, and that's Memorial Day, and so we'll see if that's the avenue that we take, whether or not we head to Kentucky. I know the Ben Ali's one that I kind of looked at a little bit. That's coming up, pretty soon. I think the 19th of April. Maybe there's the Ali Sheba on May 2nd. But I'm not so sure about that one. It is what it is. I have a senior in high school. My youngest daughter, she's graduating, and their senior mass is on May the 2nd. And I'm going to be very honest. I mean, family kind of trumps, so that's something that I'm not so sure we'd do that with Touch because we might have a family obligation. And you know what? That's okay. We've done that our whole life, and that's kind of how we do things. So we'll see how it all plays out. But he certainly warranted traveling with him. And if it's right for him and the horse, then we'd make that decision and go from there.
Jeff, I remember spending an hour with you on my weekly trainer talk show back in December of 2023. And we talked about Touchuponastar, who at that time had earnings of just over $618,000. He had won 10 of 13 career starts. He's now 15 for 21. He's never finished worse than third, and he has earnings of more than $1.4 million, and he is a Grade 2 winner. But one of the things that stands out most to me about that program is when you were telling the story about being at the Super Bowl with your brother, watching the Carolina Panthers play the New England Patriots, and you looked over into the corner, and there was a red Cadillac that was going to be given to the MVP of the Super Bowl, and Carolina looked for most of the game like they were going to win, and you thought, okay, Jake's going to be the MVP. You're going to get to drive that red Cadillac to church on Sunday morning, and it didn't materialize, unfortunately. Jake, can we now get your brother that red Cadillac 'cause he's trained a Grade 2 winner for you?
No, we're not going to do that because we have a red truck that we pull the truck and trailer with. So how about that? No, it's funny. That story, Jeff told that story after the game. And I'm going to expand on it because I think it's great. It was late at night. I had a ton of interviews. And so by the time I got back to the locker room, the whole team was gone. And they were waiting on me. So long story short, they headed to the hotel. I still needed to shower because they had like an after party for us. But I was able to ride on this bus that was provided for my family. So 15 of them were on there. And so we get on the bus, and, my oldest, who's 22 now, was 13 months, and she's sleeping. It's like 11 at night. And we're sitting on there, and everybody's just numb, right? You're numb from the game and everything and the season and all that. So we're sitting there, and I'll never forget, it's just quiet, and everybody's kind of worried about how I would feel and things like that. And we're all sitting there, and Jeff's pretty quiet. And Jeff said, yep, I sure saw myself driving to church in that Cadillac on Sunday morning. And it broke the ice. Everybody started laughing and things like that. It just kind of broke the ice. But, no, we have a red truck that we pull the trailer with and we pull the horses with. So that's our red Cadillac. How about that?
Jeff, what do you think of that?
Oh, I'm more than satisfied with that. More than satisfied. Jake's been very generous and allowing me to work for him, and he provides a great life for me.
Yeah, maybe if you can win a Grade 1, maybe we'll get the red Cadillac then. But for now, the red truck will have to do. And listen, I am so happy for your success. I'm so happy for everything that the two of you do for the sport of thoroughbred racing and for racing in Louisiana. And to go down this road together, I know how special it is for the two of you. And Jeff, man, congratulations on the way you prepared Touchuponastar for this effort. What do you do with them now as the trainer? I'm sure you're just trying to keep them happy, but what do you do with them now until that next start when that next spot is decided?
Okay, quick confession. Well, I am the trainer on the program. Jake takes a big part in making decisions on where we go with this horse.
Yeah.
The conditioning aspect of it and everything, because just like myself, Jake is a third-generation horseman. Not only he's familiar with horses, in my eyes, second to none in studying pedigree and watching races. Not only did he compete at the highest level, I think he can transfer that to the conditioning of his own horses, and the medical staff that he dealt with in Carolina knows how to find the right one to put in place for our team. So make no mistake, I help out a lot, but the decisions all are coming from Jake. And now that he's back in town and retired from football, the reins are in his hands.
How about the day-to-day training, though? Isn't that more falling onto your shoulders?
He's not giving himself enough credit. Everything, listen, we learn from Dad, right? So we kind of learn from Dad, and then there's trial and error. Not every horse is the same, and we're lucky. We don't have 50, 60, 70 horses where it's got to be a program, right? And so we can train individually. I think he's not giving himself credit. We all have a lot of input in kind of what we think, and, there's 6 eyeballs looking at the horses train every day, So, I mean, it's not just 2, and we take input from the Gala boys and things like that. Just what's best, you know what I mean? Let's not be hard-headed. What is the right thing to do for the horse? I think that's the biggest thing. And they will tell you and they will reward you. And when they don't, okay, where did we screw up? What did we do? What did we miss? I think that's something we're very critical in that regard, and you have to be. You can't sweep things under a rug after a win or something like that. You've got to dig down deep, and you got to know, okay, what could we have done better? And I think that's what drives us, especially after we throw in a clunker. Right? There is a clunker. Can't wait to kind of start, okay, where did we go wrong? What did we miss? So he's not giving himself much credit. We're all 3 of us are very much involved, to say the least.
Jeff, take a bow. My friend, I get it. It's a team effort, a family effort, and I think it's wonderful the way it's all come together. Congratulations on that huge win, guys. Let's keep it rolling. I really appreciate the two of you taking time to be with me here this morning. All the best going forward, and let's go get another grade 2, huh?
Let's try that.
Sounds great.
That was fun. I would like to relive that again.
All right, guys. Appreciate the visit.
Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Jake Delhomme, Jeff Delhomme, the brother team behind Touchuponastar, the winner of the New Orleans Classic on the Louisiana Derby undercard last Saturday at the fairgrounds. Really fun stuff, right? And you can hear Jeff is very, very humble. He was like that when he joined me for the full hour on Trainer Talk. And if you missed it back in 2023, go back and listen to that conversation because he had more great stories. But he's a very humble person. Jake is the quarterback. He's the one calling the shots, but their dad's involved. It's a family effort. And to see them have this kind of success on that stage in their home state and in one of the biggest races that the fairgrounds will host all year long, it's really special. So congrats to them, and can't wait to see Touchuponastar and where that next race turns out to be. All right, coming up next, going to shift gears, take you down to Gulfstream Park, Florida Derby Day. I'll welcome Brian Nadeau, who is one of the analysts there at Gulfstream. He'll walk through not just the Florida Derby, but some of the stakes races on the undercard as well. That's coming up right after your Legends of the Turf and this short commercial break.
It was 1942. America was in the throes of a worldwide conflict. Guadalcanal had not yet taken its final massive toll. Rationing, victory gardens, Rosie the Riveter, and victory bonds were the common bywords of the American public. Sports had Joe Louis, Joe DiMaggio, and Whirlaway as national idols. On Saturday, September 19, 1942, amidst a vast, massive war effort, the marvelous 3-year-old thoroughbred Alsab and Calumet's 4-year-old Whirlaway, who had won racing's fabled Triple Crown in 1941, went postward in a much-anticipated, much-ballyhooed match race at Narragansett Park near Providence, Rhode Island. The race itself was the concept of Judge James A. Dooley, the president of Narragansett, and it was a winner-take-all, wait-for-age affair for a then-huge purse of $25,000. The track's profit for the day was to go to the Army and Navy Relief Fund. There were more than 35,000 racing fans on hand at Gansett that day, and they were not to depart disappointed, for what was about to unfold was to become, to this very day, one of the all-time classic confrontations in the world of sport. Alsab, the 3-year-old, carried 119 pounds, while the old Longtail, as Whirlaway had come to be affectionately bemonikered by the racing public, had an impost of 126. Both were razor sharp and were escorted to the paddock by a special police guard. In stall 2, Ben Jones, the trainer of Whirlaway, assisted by his son Jimmy, saddled the Calumet standard bearer in the famed Devil's Red and Blue silks. Tightening the girth in stall 6 on Alsab was the redoubtable Sarge Swanky. There was an enormous crowd around the paddock trying to position themselves for even a fleeting glimpse of the two titans of the turf. A loud, prolonged applause rippled through the stands as Carol Bierman and the irons aboard the great Alsab and the infamous Georgie the Iceman Wolf on Whirlaway brought their stalwarts postward. Whirlaway was the 3-10 favorite, Alsab 8-5. The distance of the race was 1 3/16 miles, and as the gates flew open, the Devil's Red and Blue silks of Whirlaway flashed to the front along the rail. Bierman aboard Alsab quickly picked up the pace and, as expected, quickly hustled his mount to the front, crossing over to the rail. It was Alsab by a length and a half going to the clubhouse turn, but Wolf had the big Calumet colt going along easily and would not allow Alsab to get off and set an uncontested pace. They hit the quarter in 25-2, and as they rounded the turn going to the long run down the backside, it was Alsab by 2 with Bierman constantly glancing back at his rival, who was keeping closer to the pace than was his normal style. They hit the hop in a rather pedestrian 50-2. Going to the far turn, Bierman let Alsab out a notch, and the lead was open to 3, with a 3/4 having run in a snail-like 114 flat. Rounding the bend, Wolf asked Whirlaway for a bit of run, and his mount closed the gap to 2 as they hit the quarter pole. At the top of the stretch, with 3/16 to the wire, the two rivals were just heads apart after having gone a mile in 1:38-3. Then came that never-to-be-forgotten stretch run that was to be forever indelibly etched in the minds of those in attendance on that gorgeous fall afternoon in New England. With Wolf going to the whip, Whirlaway pulled dead even as the two combatants were eyeball to eyeball. The huge clamor from the enormous crowd reached a crescendo as the two magnificent thoroughbreds matched powerful synchronized strides. Both riders were now using all of their consummate skills, driving furiously, both horses digging in, responding with every ounce of courage and strength they could muster. With colors glistening in the bright sunlight and the inseparable thoroughbreds in symmetrical full stride, it was literally like watching poetry in motion, an absolutely marvelous spectacle of sport. They thundered to the wire, locked together, a ton of horseflesh, inseparable, in an absolutely breathtaking finish. The final time of 1:56.2 flashed on the board, meaning they had run the final 3/16 in a rapid 17-4. Coming back to the winner's circle, shaped in the form of a large V for victory in the war effort, both were loudly cheered. Then came the agonizing and suspenseful wait as the crowd buzzed in disagreement over which had won after they both hit the wire together. When the photograph was developed and Al Sab's number flashed on the board, a winner by the very narrowest of noses, the shouting and applause were deafening both for the winner and the loser. It had been a truly magnificent effort on the part of both great horses. The very first to congratulate Al Sab's owner, Al Sabbath, and trainer Sarge Swanky for their win was the magnanimous trainer of Whirlaway, Ben Jones. Al Sab versus Whirlaway, September 19, 1942, at Narragansett Park. A most assuredly classic confrontation, and indeed a great moment in the world of thoroughbred racing.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All the action, all the biggest players, all in one place. Follow the action from the racetrack to the sales ring at Keeneland on closing day of the spring meet. Right place, right time, right here. Make your move at the April Selected Horses of Racing Age sale, Friday, April 25th at Keeneland. Learn more at april.keeneland.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Gunnevera's into fifth, but still a long way off the lead, and the lead is now held by Always Dreaming. Always Dreaming set down for the drive by John Velasquez, and he's moving away. State of Honor is up into second, an impressive edge. Gunnevera too little, too late, but inside the 16th pole, the 2017 Florida Derby to Todd Pletcher, and Always Dreaming. They won it by 4 in the end. Second State of Honor, Gunnevera got running for third, got close after that between Impressive Edge and Three Rules, followed in by Talk Logistics, Coleman Rocky on Bridled Holiday, Charlie the Greek, and Keeney Entos.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. Travis Stone, oh my goodness. The 2017 Florida Derby going to Always Dreaming. Pete Aiello with the call of that race, and Todd Pletcher has had a lot of success in this race. He looks to continue it this afternoon in the Keeneland Florida Derby. Post time 6:42 Eastern. It is race 14 of 14 races on this incredible card this afternoon in South Florida. 10 stakes races. 5 of those are graded. And to tell us more about it now is Brian Nadeau, one of the handicappers there. He does a great job alongside his tag team partner, Ron Nicoletti. Brian, good morning.
Hey, Mikey, good morning. Good to hear from you. And, happy Keeneland Florida Derby Day.
Yeah, happy to have you on board here this morning. What a race. You know, Todd Pletcher's had a lot of success. Not the case for Hall of Famer Bill Mott, who has won almost every big race there is to win, but he's looking for his first win in the Florida Derby, and he does it with sovereignty this afternoon, the morning line favorite.
Yeah, pretty clear that this is the by far horse to beat. So impressive winning the Fountain of Youth, Mike, as kind of a reportedly rumored short horse. So that's a little scary today. Post position isn't ideal, but he's also a horse that's going to take back and probably save ground into the first turn anyway. So if it was a horse maybe like a Disruptor or something out there, it's not ideal. But we did back up the starting gate too, as I'm sure you and your listeners heard, a few weeks ago. So it's his race to lose, Mike. It goes through him quite comfortably.
And a rider change here because Junior Alvarado is injured. Manny Franco will sub for him. A very, very capable replacement. Manny Franco, an excellent rider. That should not make a difference in this race this afternoon.
I don't think so. He's actually won a Keeneland Florida Derby with Tis the Law a few years back. He's acclimated here. He's won a mile and an eighth race down here. Hey, these are world-class riders, and they get on horses each and every day that they've never ridden before. I don't really expect this to be that big of a deal. I certainly wouldn't tell people not to pick Sovereignty because he has a different jockey today.
Yeah, absolutely not. How about the competition? Where does it come from him? Who are the main challengers?
It's a good race, Mike. I think you could come up with 6 horses that, you wouldn't fall over if they won. Certainly it's cool to see Bob Baffert here with Matticat Road, who's going to be ridden by Mike Smith. I think that's very important. You've got Tappan Street, like White Abario did a few years back, won the Holy Bull, skipped the Fountain of Youth, and showed up in the Florida Derby, and White Abario won it. Certainly Disruptor is, I don't want to call him a wild card, but he is the kind of the unknown because we don't know just how good he can be. And, the calendar's peeling off pretty quickly day by day for Todd Pletcher. So he's throwing this horse firmly into the deep end of the pool, Mike, off just one maiden win. He's never run 2 turns. He's only run 2 times. So it's a big ask for Disruptor. You've got Jimmy's Dailies in there for Brian Lynch, who was pretty good, running second to what I think is probably Todd's best horse, and that's Grande. So there's a lot of, even Neo Okos down on the inside for Sapi and Edgar Zayas is, hardly impossible. He was not a bad third at all, trying 2 turns behind Sovereignty in the Fountain of Youth.
It seems like anything Brad Cox puts a saddle on these days finds themselves in the winner's circle. And you mentioned Tappan Street and the path that he's looking to take to victory in the Florida Derby this afternoon. What have you seen from him that makes you believe he's a major player in this race this afternoon?
Well, today especially, I think there's going to be some hitting up front, Mike. I think there has to be. You've got Neo Okos from the rail. They're kind of pot committed. Disruptors, but just chase 44-2, and Hall of Famer Mike Smith always likes to be involved in a hot pace, it seems. So Tappan Street, and then you got Matticat Road coming in with California Speed for Baffert with that one there too. So Tappan Street has got a running style that is supposed to allow him first run on Sovereignty, but not get hot and bothered with what's going on up front. So he is supposed to trip out very, very nicely in this spot today. He's a fresh new horse. The post maybe isn't ideal for him. He's a little slow on paper, but also, he hasn't run since the Holy Bull, so he's got almost 2 months to acclimate and kind of get bigger, stronger, and tougher. So I think he is a player, Mike, for sure.
Who's your top pick?
Well, I'm going to take a real stab. Jimmy's Dailies is going to be a number in here. I have a lot of respect for Brian Lynch, who just is not going to run a horse that's going to be embarrassed, in my personal opinion. And Jimmy's Dailies actually tried 9 furlongs when he was second to Grande, and it was a pretty darn good effort that day. He really didn't have a fair go of it. He got kind of sussed out as the inside speed with Grande just lapped to him the entire way. And it was a very disadvantageous kind of trip. But lo and behold, he finished second, 2.5 lengths behind. He's lightly raced. He's got a world of improvement ahead of him, and he's going to get run off his feet a little bit, which is what I really like, Mike, because he has got Joel Rosario today, and he is as strong a finishing rider as we have in the sport. And he's a price. He's a big stab. But I'm going to take a shot. The one thing we need to talk about, Mike, too, is that Sovereignty. He's already in. He's got his Derby points. He's ready to roll. And while it would be huge to have a Grade 1 Florida Derby win for a Godolphin homebred on the pedigree and on the ledger, you got that Run for the Roses thing coming up, and I just wonder if just maybe Sovereignty's not, 130% cranked.
All right, well, since we're talking about taking stabs, earlier this week, yesterday as a matter of fact, I had a chance to spend an hour with trainer, owner, and breeder Ruben Sierra, and that was on my Trainer Talk show presented by Fasig-Tipton. The podcast is out there if people want to go listen to it, but he trains indecisiveness. Indecisiveness is 30-1 on the morning line. He was third last time out, 3 1/4 lengths behind Jimmy's Dailies, who you're going to take a shot with. Can you make any case at all for indecisiveness?
I could make a case for him running in the number, Mike. Well-beaten kind of fourth or third. Ruben takes shots. He beat a Brad Cox horse that was 1-5 in a Florida Stallion Series race to kick off the championship meet. So Ruben likes to take shots. These are all homebreds for him. That is him just for fun stable. He's a good guy and a good horseman. And this is a big number, but this is a horse that, it didn't, like you said, run that poorly behind my top pick. And he's not out of the realm of possibility for a minor award that would absolutely blow things up.
Well, as I mentioned, post time for the Keeneland Florida Derby as race 14. The final race on the program in South Florida this afternoon is 6:42 Eastern Time, one of 10 stakes races, 5 graded. So, Brian, I'll throw it to you. Of the other graded stakes races, which other races are most intriguing to you?
Well, I think it's just cool, Mike, that we get to see White Abario again, the Pegasus World Cup winner, who's on the short list of best horse, in the country, as he preps for some New York Grade 1 races. I think that's awesome. We don't get to see our superstars run as much as we'd like, and he's here today. So he's, literally 1-9 on the morning line. I don't think he'll ever do that again, but that's what he is. It's cool to see him. The Gulfstream Parks Oaks is pretty fascinating. I do think 5G is a pretty real horse. With, Kentucky Oaks aspirations. We get to see her. Farbridge is a multiple Grade 1 winner. We get to see him come back. But, we're also gambling, Mike, and if you're kind of picking up what I'm putting down, these are real star horses that are going to be short numbers. And I'm going to have a lot of tight tickets today. I'm all for beating favorites and things like that, but I'm all for not looking for something that isn't there. And there are spots today where you can take shots, but there are also spots where I think the favorites are gonna rule pretty good. And I'm gonna have some tight tickets, especially a little later on. If a horse, she's not going to be a price, but I think she could be a really, really good turf filly for Christophe Clement, and that is in race number.
I love this, Brian. I love when you and Ronnie and different handicappers come on, and I start throwing it to you out of order, and I can hear you flipping through the papers trying to find the right race. Listen, you are so in tune with this game, right? And these horses in Florida that sometimes they all start to run together.
Yeah, well, apparently not that in tune if I have no idea what the heck race it is. Race 10, I think, in the Sanibel Island. Love Cervere she's your morning line favorite. She is really good, I think, and she's a single for me in a race that a lot of people might spread a little bit. I'm excited to see her. She came off a maiden win and was a troubled second in the Ginger Brew to Nitrogen, who we all know so well. So she's the one I'm really going to key on today, Mike, in those intermediary horizontals that we have.
Interesting. That is race 10, the Sanibel Island, 7.5 furlongs on the turf course at Gulfstream. By the way, post time for that race, 4:06 if you're wanting to learn more about Brian Single. Brian, what are some of the special wagers that folks can look forward to when they're playing Gulfstream Park this afternoon?
Yeah, we've got a slew of them, Mike. There's 4 pick 4s, there's 4 pick 5s. In that race number 10, we have the Tropical Turf pick 3, which is a $3 base wager and a 15% takeout, and that is an awesome bet that routinely pays well more than the parlay. We've got no guarantees, but we're expecting about $2 million in the late pick 5, over $1 million in the late pick 4, and because there's no rest for the weary, we close it all down tomorrow, and it's a mandatory Rainbow 6 day as well, and that thing could be 4 or 5 million. So it's a heck of a weekend here in Hollandale Beach.
Yeah, it certainly is. When you think back on the meet and some of the key moments that we've seen. What are some of the things that immediately come to mind for you that are going to stand out about the 2024-2025 championship meet?
Well, Mike, not to cherry pick, but I think it's pretty obvious that just seeing White Abarrio back home and returning to form that says he's as good as any, horse we have in this country, and the Pegasus was pretty awesome. Just a dominant effort, and it meant so much for Safi Joseph Jr. to have him back in the barn. I think that first and foremost was cool. And, honestly, to see Sovereignty do what he did in the Fountain of Youth and stamp himself as a real horse, Mike. We see horses, and I don't want to disparage anyone that's won the Fountain of Youth, a promises fulfilled or a simplification or things like that. But we've seen horses win that race and kind of just cast a little bit of a leery eye because it's a short stretch finish line race. It's an early kind of race, that type of thing. Well, this is not that horse, and this is legitimate Kentucky Derby horse. And to say we kind of got to see him all winter here at Gulfstream Park, that's pretty cool to me. And I would see no reason why he doesn't. If he doesn't even win today, I expect him to be right there, and I expect him to go to Kentucky, Mike, as one of the ones, if you want to say, behind the journalisms of the world, but in a tight kind of second, third, or fourth type of choice.
If he doesn't win today, it would be one of the greatest upsets in racing history. He's 1-9 on the morning line, man. He's supposed to win that race.
No, I'm talking about Sovereignty.
I thought you meant White Abarrio. Okay.
No, if White Abarrio doesn't win today, something will have gone horribly wrong. I want to check the starting. How about that?
Sovereignty will have to work for that win a little bit today, no doubt about it. White Abarrio, this should be as easy a win for him as he's had in a long time because he towers over this field on paper, and I understand a lot of things can happen. They don't run the race on paper, but my goodness, he looks like a monster in that spot.
He could run his 11th best race lifetime, and whoever the next horse is could run their best race, and they still wouldn't win. You're right, Mike. That's the disparity and the discrepancy on paper.
Brian, I appreciate the visit, man. I know it's a busy morning for you. Say hello to Ronnie and everybody down there at Gulfstream for me, and enjoy the day. Good luck at the windows.
I will do so, Mike. I appreciate you having me on all winter, and it's always great to hear from you, and we'll catch up down the road.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Brian Nadeau here on HRRN. Huge day of racing, capped off by the 14th race of the afternoon, the final race, the Grade 1 Florida Derby, the Keeneland Florida Derby, presented by our friends at Hillendale. All right, time now for your Kentucky bred update for this Saturday morning. We do this for you once a month to keep you in the loop as to what is happening with the Kentucky thoroughbred industry. And how about this? You can win big in the bluegrass, breed and race in Kentucky, because you have a record $20 million in awards that was paid to breeders participating in the Kentucky Thoroughbred Breeders Incentive Fund program for racing in 2024. KBIF has provided more than $250 million to breeders of Kentucky breds winning eligible races worldwide since the program was implemented in 2005. Kentucky's average purse per race of more than $104,000, an average field size of 8.9 at its 5 racetracks, continue to outpace all other leading racing jurisdictions. And for the upcoming spring meet at Keeneland, Keeneland has increased the value of 16 stakes races and is offering a record $9.4 million in purses across 19 stakes during the spring meet, which runs April 4th to the 25th. Kentucky breds are the world's best racehorses. 72% of the greatest stakes races in the U.S. in 2024 were won by, you guessed it, Kentucky breds. Kentucky breds won all 3 legs of last year's Triple Crown, with Mystic Dan winning the Derby, Seize the Gray in the Preakness, and Dornoch capturing the Belmont Stakes. And this year, 3-year-old Kentucky breds are making noise on the Kentucky Derby Trail, including Tistastic, winner of the Louisiana Derby, Final Gambit, winner of the Jeff Ruby Stakes, Coal Battle, the Rebel Stakes winner, who we'll see later today in the Arkansas Derby, Owen Almighty, winner of the Tampa Bay Derby, Citizen Bull, winner of last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile and this year's Robert B. Lewis. You have Sovereignty, who is a winner of the Fountain of Youth, goes in the Florida Derby. We just talked about him. You have American Promise, victorious in the Virginia Derby. Kentucky breds are prominent everywhere. Kentucky breds, breed them, raise them, race them. We all win. For more information on racing and breeding in Kentucky, visit KentuckyBreds.com. When I come back, it's time for this week's edition of Calling All 3-Year-Olds, presented by Spendthrift. I sub for Bobby Newman, who will be back next week. and I'll get you ready for hour number 2. That's all ahead on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding.
Whoa!
Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woohoo! Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Well, John, the stage is set for the final transaction.
That's right, Joe. Heather's moment has arrived, and you just hope all that training pays off.
Heather lays down her purchase, but Randy rings it up as slowly as he can.
He is a wily veteran.
It gives Heather's eyes the chance to wander.
Uh-oh.
Yep, she's looking at the cigarettes.
There's nothing good back there. Quit now, and in 5 years, your odds of getting certain cancers drop 50%.
Meanwhile, Randy's stone-faced. He's giving nothing away. He just stands there, wetting his cashier's finger on that sponge.
Heather toes the rubber.
Here we go. Heather's arm is in motion. But instead of pointing at the back wall, she just grabs the gum off the counter.
That's a slick move.
Heather back. She is out of there. Even Randy tips his cap to Heather. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally wants you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Free health care. Hundreds to more than $1,000 per month in disability compensation and tens of thousands for college tuition. These are just some of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs benefits that may be available to veterans. VA is focused on customer service like never before. Choose VA and see why veterans' trust in VA reached an all-time high. Claim the benefits you've earned at choose.va.gov.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're all in line. And they're off.
Spendthrift Farm presents Calling All 3-Year-Olds with Bobby Newman.
Hey everyone, it's the Baron pinch hitting for Bobby Newman on this week's edition of Calling All 3-Year-Olds, presented by Spendthrift Farm. Last week's 3-year-old spotlight was on the fairgrounds in New Orleans and Turfway Park in northern Kentucky. After seeing his talented Derby prospect Magnitude knocked off the Derby trail, Hall of Fame trainer Steve Asmussen regrouped and found himself in the winner's circle of the Louisiana Derby for the 5th time thanks to Tiztastic's late-running heroics. A gutsy second-place effort by the Ethan West-trained Chunk of Gold will likely catapult both horses to a spot in the starting gate of the Run for the Roses. At Turfway, Juddmont's Final Gambit had no problem with the competition in the Jeff Ruby Stakes despite making his stakes debut. The Brad Cox trainee lagged far behind early but uncorked a powerful run through the stretch to pull off the 15-1 upset. The Grade 1 Arkansas Derby and Grade 1 Florida Derby highlight the point schedule later today. Cornucopian dazzled in his debut, winning by 5 3/4 lengths on February 23rd. The son of Into Mischief finds himself as the 7-5 morning line favorite in Hot Springs for Hall of Fame trainer Bob Baffert, while the Bill Mott-trained Sovereignty assumes the favorite's role in South Florida as he looks for a 3rd consecutive victory under new rider Manny Franco, subbing for the injured Junior Alvarado. With the Bluegrass, Wood Memorial, and Santa Anita Derby all looming on next Saturday's schedule, horse racing's version of March Madness is in full swing. I'll be back with this week's top 5 list right after this word from Spendthrift.
He's one of the most accomplished 2-year-old champions ever.
Forte, on to victory here in the Grade 1 hopeful.
He's a TDN Rising Star, a 5-furlong debut winner in May, a 3-time Grade 1 winning juvenile from 7 furlongs to a mile and a 16th.
And Forte to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
He's a Florida Derby winner, a Fountain of Youth winner, a Jim Dandy winner at 3.
The champion prevails. Forte wins the Florida Derby.
He's the best colt from the Medaglia d'Oro line. He's Forte, standing at Spendthrift Farm. This week's top 5 list of Derby contenders looks like this. Number 5 is River Thames. A big effort went second best in the Fountain of Youth, guessing he's got plenty of room to improve. Number 4 is Tistastic. He put it all together in the Louisiana Derby and could be figuring things out at the right time. Number 3, Barnes. Ran big despite suffering defeat in the San Felipe, but was miles clear of the others. Still, lots of room for improvement. Number 2, Sovereignty. Won the Fountain of Youth despite probably not being 100% cranked. A win today could make him the Derby favorite. And number 1 is Journalism. Ran huge in tracking down lonely leader Barnes in the San Felipe. He should be tough once again in next Saturday's Santa Anita Derby. And that's your Calling All 3-Year-Olds segment presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.
These next couple of weekends just loaded with Derby implications. Next weekend, one of the big races, the Santa Anita Derby. Of course, Santa Anita racing this afternoon, post time 1 p.m. And now every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you can bet the coast-to-coast Pick 5, Santa Anita and Gulfstream sequence with a low 15% takeout. The $2 Pick 6 is a traditional Pick 6, and then you've got the $3 All-Turf Pick 3 with a low 15% takeout, as is the $3 Late Pick 3 and the $5 Late Double. And as I mentioned, next Saturday, Santa Anita Derby Day, reserved seats and experience packages are available. You can go to santaanita.com/events, and you can get tickets at santaanita.com. Hour 2 of the Equine Forum comes up next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of 3. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. A loaded afternoon to thoroughbred racing. Make sure you're going to TwinSpires to place your wagers later today. If you missed any portion of the first hour of the program, head to our website, horseracingradio.net, to check out my interview with Jake and Jeff Delhomme, looking back on Touchuponastar's big win in the New Orleans Classic last weekend, and that conversation with Brian Nadeau, talking about some of the big races at Gulfstream this afternoon, including the Florida Derby. Coming up in hour 2, you're going to hear from former Kentucky Senator Damon Thayer, who joins me momentarily to talk about the business side of racing. A lot to talk about there, including decoupling down in Florida and some of the new HISA fees that are affecting smaller racetracks around the country. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Trainer Lonnie Briley set to join me to talk about Coal Battle right around 9:20. 9:35, you'll hear from Gatewood Bell, the Keeneland Vice President of Racing, looks ahead to next weekend's opening day of the Keeneland Spring Meet. And our Kentucky bred conversation right around 9:50 with the native of Louisville, Brad Cox, and everything he saddles now is just running lights out. It has been like that for a few years now. Brad will join me right around 9:50. Hour 3 begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully gives you 3 races you can keep an eye on. 10 a.m. Eastern, 10:20, Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History. 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. Our impossible trivia question today. We'll reveal the answer at the end of the show. What other race was originally known as the Florida Derby until the name was changed in 1937? If you think you know it, you can post it on our social media pages. You can hit me up with an email, mike@horseracingradio.net, and we'll see if you can come up with the answer to that question. Well, as I mentioned, former Kentucky Senator Damon Thayer is front and center at the decoupling issue. He also is front and center on the HISA issues, as he was part and privy to that when he was in the Kentucky Senate. He joins me now here on HRRN. Senator, former Senator, good morning.
Hi, Mike. Good morning from Hot Springs, Arkansas. I hope you're having a great morning.
Is it still appropriate to say senator?
I mean, technically the rule says once you won the office, you can be called that. It's like, if you ran into Bill Clinton, you would call him Mr. President. But I just prefer it if you call me Damon.
You got it. You'll always be senator to me, though.
That's very kind of you. I had a great run, 22 years, but now my new goal in life is saving horse racing one state at a time.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, you are working your tail off to do that. And let's start with the most recent news. We'll get to decoupling here in just a minute. The Seattle Times featuring a story this week indicating that Emerald Downs may be looking at some very difficult times ahead because of increasing HISA fees they would be required to pay, which could increase as much as 89%, going from $712,000 to more than $1.34 million. And the fear is, Damon, that this is not going to be the only small track to be affected by these increasing fees. What does the industry do to deal with this issue?
Well, I've been saying this for a while, and the HISA fees need to be paid for by the federal government. HISA is a federally mandated program. And as I've said on this show before, I'm not a big fan of HISA. I don't like federal government control of horse racing or anything for that matter beyond maybe our defense and funding for roads. It tends to screw things up when it gets involved. But until this matter is settled by the Supreme Court, which could take years, these fees are being foisted on the states. And the federal government is forcing this program on racing, and it should pay for the program. Because if they don't, the fees are being forced on the racetracks, and that means either horsemen or fans in the form of increased takeout are going to be paying the HISA fees. There are some states like Florida where they did get some help from the state government, from a state appropriation. But again, why do the states and therefore the tracks, the horsemen, and the bettors have to pay for a program that has been foisted upon us by the federal government? And I've been saying this for a while, that eventually some of these small to mid-sized tracks, they're just going to throw up their hands and say, I give, because they can't afford it. They can't afford these fees. And what's going to happen is they will opt out of HISA, which means then they will not be able to simulcast their signals nationwide, which means there will be less content for full card simulcasting and ADW and for FanDuel TV. And also then these states are going to adopt their own medication rules, which means we're going to actually have less medication uniformity than we did before HISA went into effect. It's a vicious cycle, and I just wish, and I've talked to Senator McConnell and Congressman Barr about it here in Kentucky, I just wish the federal government would pay for it. It's $80 million, which is a rounding error in the federal budget. But $80 million across all these states where we have horse racing and HISA is a significant amount.
In order for that to happen, it has to go through a process involving the Supreme Court. Is that the way I understand it?
Well, right now, the constitutionality of HISA is in the federal court system. And both sides are waiting for the United States Supreme Court to decide whether or not it's going to take up the case, because there are differing opinions at the Court of Appeals level. Mm-hmm. So that's regarding the constitutionality of HISA. The funding issue needs to be settled by the Congress in the meantime, where the next time the Congress does a federal budget, it could put a line item in there funding the HISA operations from the federal budget.
Okay, so that would be the more immediate solution. What kind of time frame are we looking at there?
Well, whenever the federal government deals with the budget, and right now they're talking about President Trump's big beautiful bill, they could put it in there. And one of my last acts as a state senator last year in Kentucky was to pass a resolution that was adopted unanimously by the Kentucky State Senate urging Congress to fund HISA. And all 8 members of the Kentucky federal delegation were sent a copy of that resolution. passed 38-0. So this is something I've been working on for a while, and certainly the news out of Emerald Downs, while not unexpected, was a bit dispiriting because I've been talking about this for a couple of years now.
Damon Thayer with me here on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Damon, let's shift gears. The other topic that's been in the headline quite often, and rightfully so, is decoupling in Florida with Gulfstream Park and Tampa Bay Downs. Where do things stand now, and what are you doing on that front currently?
I wish I had better news about where we stand. Unfortunately, the decoupling bill has been posted in the Senate Regulated Industries Committee Tuesday afternoon in Tallahassee. We were hoping that the bill would not get posted. It had been delayed a couple of weeks, but the Senate has decided to start moving forward with its version of the bill. As you noted, I'm senior advisor to the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative, a group that's been formed of horsemen breeders and Ocala Breeder Sales Company to fight the decoupling bill, because if Gulfstream Park has its racing license decoupled from its casino license, it would have a cataclysmic effect on not only Gulfstream Park as a track, but the Florida breeding industry, which, as you know, is a significant part of Florida's economy with nearly 33,000 jobs and a $3.3 billion economic activity. We have an all-hands-on-deck approach. We're trying to get buses from Gulfstream Park and Tampa to bring horsemen, and we are funding a bus from Ocala to bring as many people as possible to the committee hearing Tuesday in Tampa. We will be testifying against the bill. I'm heading down to Tallahassee myself on Monday. TRI will be testifying against the bill, as I noted, and we're going to try to send a strong, united message that the horse industry is opposed to the decoupling bill, which will benefit one Canadian company that wishes to get out of horse racing and close Gulfstream Park to the detriment of the Florida horse racing industry. And what I fear is the camel's nose under the tent. It sends a bad message to other states about decoupling gaming from horse racing.
If decoupling would become a reality, where does that leave the industry in Florida?
I fear that Belinda Stronach will close Gulfstream Park down within the year if decoupling passes. Because then, 19 years ago, the horsemen agreed to a bill to allow a slots casino at Gulfstream Park as long as it was coupled with horse racing. Belinda Stronach and the Stronach Group wish to decouple the horse racing license from gaming. We saw what happened at Pompano Park when standardbred racing was decoupled. Caesars shut down Pompano Park almost right away when harness racing decoupling passed. We fear the same thing happening for thoroughbred racing. And the Stronach Group is reneging on a promise 19 years ago when it got horsemen's support to open that casino at Gulfstream Park. It's now going back on that agreement and that commitment, and that's a bad precedent to be set in horse racing.
All right, give me the odds, in your opinion, that the decoupling bill could be defeated by yourself, by horsemen who are lobbying against it.
Well, I'm no Mike Battaglia. I'm not a very good line maker, but right now I would say we're at 50-50, and I don't like those odds. I don't like even money. We're better than we were 3 weeks ago, where I thought it had an 80% chance of passing. I think we've improved our odds, but we're in the fourth inning of a 9-inning game. Belinda Stronach has already scored some runs, but we're trying to load the bases, to use a baseball analogy.
Is there
we've got till May 2nd to kill the bill.
Yeah, is there any – okay, May 2nd is the deadline there. Is there any middle ground, any compromise that could be reached between now and May 2nd that would be acceptable to both sides?
We don't want to compromise Florida's racing future with a gun to our head. And that's the situation we find ourselves in Florida with this decoupling bill. We would like to delay the bill, kill the bill for this session, give us the rest of the year to try to negotiate a compromise for the future of Florida racing and breeding.
Damon Thayer here on HRRN, as you can hear, 50-50 on what we might be seeing with that House bill in Florida with decoupling, and those odds are troubling to everybody in the industry, not just in Florida, but around the country for sure. Damon, before I let you go, a couple of minutes left. First of all, let me shift gears here and go congratulations to your Michigan State Spartans, who will now take on the number 1 overall seed Auburn Tigers tomorrow afternoon.
Thanks. Very excited about Sparty's 11th trip to the Elite Eight. Let's see if we can make another trip to the Final Four. Tough game against Auburn, but, man, I love my team and I love my coach.
Yeah, but how incredible is Tom Izzo?
Just an amazing coach. I'm down here in Arkansas. I gave a speech last night on the state of horse racing to the Arkansas Breeders and Horsemen's Association, and my speech ended with 50 seconds left in the game. So it was a bit of a nail biter, and of course that last minute 3-pointer made the score look closer than it was. But you know, we're a great second half team, but I would really like it against Auburn if we could be a great first half team as well. Izzo, man, what a guy! 27 straight trips to the NCAA tournament, 16 Sweet 16s, and now 11 trips to the Elite Eight. That's why we call him Mr. March. What a great guy.
Yeah, you might not be any Mike Battaglia, but I'll tell you what, you might be in line for Jay Billis's job, the way you just broke that one down for me.
I've been studying it all morning just so I have those numbers at hand.
Hey, if they win, you can kick back with a little and celebrate with a little Kentucky Senator bourbon.
That would be the plan. Mike.
Yeah, congratulations on the success there too, my friend, and all the best. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That Arkansas Derby going to be fantastic, and we'll catch up again soon.
Anytime you want me to come on the show to give an update, just let me know. Thanks for giving us a forum to update your listeners on the situation in Florida.
You got to keep up the good work. Damon Thayer here on HRRN. As you can hear, the situation with decoupling could go either way at this point, and he was great in filling you in on what the industry is looking at in terms of dealing with the HISA fees and how this situation with Emerald Downs and some of the smaller tracks could be potentially avoided or at least rectified if indeed we can get everything worked out with the federal budget and find a way to get the federal budget, the federal government to pay for some of those fees as opposed to putting that fee on these smaller racetracks, which just can't deal with it right now. All right, coming up next, Lonnie Briley took time yesterday to sit down with me and talk about Coal Battle. It's one of the great stories on the road to the Kentucky Derby this year. You're going to hear it next. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Experience the Keeneland Florida Derby at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, March 29th as world-class thoroughbreds compete on the road to the Triple Crown right here in Allendale. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
Good Cheer, who has the advantage coming past the 16th. Go Well's Delight is third. Herlaugh in fourth. Quick Kick is fifth. It is Good Cheer, all class, all wins. Good Cheer, the Fairgrounds Oaks champion.
Good Cheer, the daughter of Darley stallion Medaglia d'Oro, ran her lifetime record to a perfect 6 for 6 with that impressive win in the Grade 2 Fairgrounds Oaks last weekend, and now takes aim at the Grade 1 Kentucky Oaks. Interestingly, another daughter of Medaglia d'Oro, Horse of the Year Rachel Alexandra, won the Fairgrounds Oaks en route to her record-breaking win in the 2009 Kentucky Oaks. Undefeated Good Cheer is your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Medaglia d'Oro has produced 28 Grade 1 winners and is the leading North American sire by worldwide stakes winners. Learn more about Medaglia d'Oro and all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Cole Battle for the Lonnie Briley Barns running a big one. Here comes Cole Battle and Juan Vargas on the outside of Manicat Road, rolling towards the lead. Cole Battle at the top of the lane. Manicat Road to the inside, not done. It's Cole Battle narrowly ahead. Now Sandman's getting rolling. He's third, but he's 7 behind. 16th to go. Cole Battle, 16th left for the Rebel Stakes win. He's on top from Manicat Road, and Sandman, who's run out of ground. Cole Battle, the story continues, this fantastic story. Cole Battle does it in the Rebel. He is a true, gritty racehorse. Manicat Road was second, Sandman third.
Matt Dinnerman with the call. The Grade 2 Rebel. Is he ever a true gritty type of racehorse? Cole Battle punching his ticket to the Run for the Roses coming up on the first Saturday in May, of course, and that is music to the ears of his 72-year-old trainer, Lonnie Briley, who has spent many, many years in this game and has never had a horse like this, and boy, is he special, and he joins me now here on the Equine Forum. Lonnie, good morning.
Good morning.
What is it about Cole Battle that just seems to make him so good?
Well, he's smart, and little horse takes care of himself. When you send him out there to work, and you can tell the rider work 5/8 and a 101, and he'll probably work a 102 and change, and come back bucking and kicking. Like haha, I did what I needed to do. And then he'll come back and cool out and everything, and then he'll lay down. He'll lay down half the day in his stall, just takes care of himself, rests, and he's just very intelligent.
Take me back to February 23rd when he wins the Rebel, that race call we just heard. Tell me about standing there, watching him come through the stretch. What was that moment like for you?
Well, when they said the fractions, I always want to take him back and come from off the pace. And when they went 45 and a half, I was feeling pretty good. I said, it's going to be a horse race now. And then about the 7/16 pole, a horse kind of hit him sideways, kind of bumped him pretty hard. And so the jockey went ahead and moved him forward, got him out the way. And then when he hit the 3/8 pole, he just kicked it in. And Vargas told me himself, he said, Mr. Lonnie, he just took off running before I asked him. And then he come around that turn, I said, oh, he'll win this. And then he hooked him horses, and then he hooked Macadat. And I figured once he hooked him, he's a gritty little horse. He's tough, and he don't hang like a lot of horses would. And then he just kept going and win the race, But then come back after the test barn, every race he comes back squealing and bucking down the shed road going to his stall. And he's never been flattened out. He's always got a little more in the tank. And so he's a very kind of different little horse. And he's intriguing. He's different, and he's fun to be with and a very cool little horse.
Well, he has one more step before you make your way to Louisville, and that comes up in the Arkansas Derby. He's 7-2 on the morning line. What have you done with him since that win in the Rebel to prepare him for the Arkansas Derby?
Well, normally I walk them 4 days after they run, and then they'll jog. And then, normally, 8 to 10 days they'll work, and then, I kind of spread out his works for the race, and 5 days before the race, I know to give him a little 3/8, kind of open his lungs, and he likes it. He'll play, but he likes it. And then he walked the next day, jog, walk, gallop, and now he's ready to run. And I know it's tough. It seems like the tougher you get to the race, the tougher the race gets. But they have some good horses in that race, and I think any horse in the race could win on his day. And but with that Copiana Baffitt's horse and Speed King, I think will be the speed of the race. And then I see the added blinkers to Publisher. I think this horse will be. I think he'll be tough in the race. And then Sandman, he's been training pretty good, I believe, and So I think they'll have maybe 4 or 5 horses in front of me, and I should be laying 4th or 5th or something like that. And then hopefully they set the fractions, which I think they will. And we'll see who's who down the stretch.
Lonnie, to think about where your career has started, where you are today, being on the cusp of having a starter in the Kentucky Derby. He has 70 Derby points. He is in. If all goes well on Saturday afternoon, he is in. What's it mean to you to hear those words? Could you ever imagine?
Well, in all honesty, with the horses I had before and stuff, I never even thought of the Derby. I mean, I watched it every year, yes, and watch all the big races, but I never, I guess, in my wildest dreams thought I'd have had a horse for the Derby. And, then this horse, I bought him in the Texas sale, and he come along, and his second race was in the juvenile, going a mile on the turf at Kentucky Downs, and the move he made, it's right there, it struck me, kind of slapped me in the face, and I said, there's more to this horse, and so I gave him the opportunity, and it's like he took it, and he's going with it. I just, when you're running a lot of $5,000 horses, when you start off and you don't even think of the Derby. And now it seems like, wait a minute here, you can't believe it, and you see the guys that got 300 horses in training and they, have 15, 20 horses to pick from, and every year, they got a couple of them for the Derby, and they struggle to win it, so, it's tough. And, we know it's tough. Everybody knows it's tough. But we'll see what happens.
One of the things that happens when a trainer or an owner gets a horse on the Derby trail and then qualifies for the Kentucky Derby is an incredible amount of added media attention. And, Lonnie, you were telling me before we started on air here that your phone keeps ringing, and you turn around and it rings again, and you turn around and it's ringing again, and everybody's going on a piece of your time. How do you deal with that?
It's crazy. I mean, like this morning I got to the barn, and I'm going through my horses, and then all of a sudden I turn around and there's 2 or 3 cameras, and I said, whoa. And I didn't realize they were there, just paying attention to my horses. And then yesterday, we got to jog them in front of the stands and gallop them. It was just stakes horses after the break, and they must have had 10, 12 cameras on all them horses. And it was really nice, see a lot of good horses on the track and watching each individual gallop and stuff. And Cole Battle went out there and jogged and kind of strutted, and then turned around and galloped and just relaxed and went real good, real good. And, it's a lot, the media, and then actually the day before yesterday, Cole Battle was picking at me, trying to nip at me. So I was just acting the monkey, trying to nip at him too. And somebody came from behind and got that picture, and they brought a big 10 by 12 of that this morning. I said, oh my Lord. I said, I can't believe they're going to have that on Facebook, and they do. And I said, and I didn't even know they were there, but, it's unreal.
Lonnie, you're no stranger to being around good horses, spending time with the late John Franks and working as a farm manager for him. He had some incredible horses in his day. Take me back to the beginning. Where did you first fall in love with horses?
Well, when I was a kid, we always had riding horses, and then later on, I loved to team rope, and me and my son would team rope, and then he won a couple of organization championships team roping, and then my grandson made it to the national high school finals, and he finished in the top 10 team roping. And so we always loved horses and had horses, and then I started breaking horses and at training forums and things like that, and at then like right now I have some overflow horses at Copper Crown in Opelousas, and I think it's the best training center in the state, and they take real good care of the track, and Harold Foreman is the owner manager of the place, and good people. And but then after that I went to work for Mr. Franks and running a farm for him, and bred mares, fold out mares, broke babies, went to sales and bought horses, did it, a little bit of all of it. And Mr. Franks was getting ill, and they was going to sell his farms and things, and then so I went out on my own training, and started with just 5 or 6 horses, and it was tough, and trying to do everything by yourself,
Yeah.
And but then picked up a few more horses and things, and then I guess 12 years ago, Robbie Norman and his brother Mark Norman came to the forum and at Copper Crown, and went to all of the barns and met all the trainers, and then they came back to my barn, and I ended up getting a couple of horses for them, and it started from there with them. They real good people. They love the business, and Robbie, I trained for him kind of exclusively, just for him, and then his brother and Robbie will have a couple of horses together, and I'll train them. And but I like it that way, and Robbie's really good. You run in the top 3, he's happy all the time, and if a horse has a problem, he understands that, kind of expects it sometimes, and I tell him everything. If he got a fly bite on the horse, I think he ought to know about it. But they're good people, and then we go to the sales at the OPS sales, 2-year and training sales, some of the yearling sales, and buy 2-year-olds in training and stuff, and go to Keeneland sometimes, a Texas sale, but that's kind of what it is,
Well, Lonnie, I'm sure that Robbie is incredibly thankful that he chose you to be his trainer. You helped select Cole Battle, and now here he is in the Arkansas Derby and on his way to the Kentucky Derby. All the best Saturday afternoon, and all the best in the next 5 weeks or so leading up to the Kentucky Derby. We will see you in Louisville, my friend.
Okay, well, I sure thank you, and y'all been very wonderful.
All right, Lonnie, appreciate it. Good luck. Lonnie Briley here on HRN. What a fantastic story, and a lot of people are going to say that may be the story of this year's Kentucky Derby. He's going to get a lot of media attention, and rightfully so. Well done, Lonnie Briley. Good luck this afternoon. When I come back, going to turn our attention to next weekend, an opening weekend at Keeneland. I'll be joined by Gatewood Bell, the Vice President of Racing at Keeneland, and still to come, our Kentucky-bred conversation. I will welcome the red-hot Brad Cox to the program. He'll talk about all of his horses this weekend and look back on last weekend as well. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All the action, all the biggest players, all in one place. Follow the action from the racetrack to the sales ring at Keeneland on closing day of the spring meet. Right place, right time, right here. Make your move at the April Selected Horses of Racing Age sale, Friday, April 25th at Keeneland. Learn more at april.keeneland.com.
Tenda Equine and Pet Care Products have been keeping world-class equine athletes happy and healthy for generations. Keep your equine athlete looking and performing well with Tenda Next Generation Wound and Skin Care Treatment, along with nutritional supplements, leg and muscle care products, salves, hoof care, poultice, topical aids, and grooming products. Visit tendahorse.com today.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Strike the goal
second, but strikes the goal, strikes the roses this afternoon.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Dave Johnson bringing them home in the 1991 renewal of the Run for the Roses. Strike the Gold used the Bluegrass Stakes as his stepping stone to the Roses. And, boy, did he ever put on a show that day for Hall of Fame trainer Nick Zito. The Bluegrass Stakes has produced 23 Kentucky Derby winners. 11 horses have won both. Strike the Gold, the most recent to do so 34 years ago. Is this the year that we see another horse come from the Bluegrass and take down the Run for the Roses? We'll find out on the first Saturday in May, but Gatewood Bell is the Keeneland Vice President of Racing. He is hoping that this is the year that that streak comes to an end. Gatewood, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Less than 1 week to opening day. How you holding up?
Oh, I'm getting excited. I wish it was tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Friday is opening day. It's going to be a spectacular meet. Of course, you have the Ashland Stakes next weekend. You have the Bluegrass Stakes next weekend. But it is a loaded weekend of racing to kick things off.
Yeah, I mean, really, it spreads throughout the entire meet, but obviously opening weekend with all the Derby week implications and all those prep races and awesome races to win in their own right. It definitely starts off with a bang, drinking out of a fire hose from the opening bell.
Yeah, 15 days of the best racing that you'll find anywhere. Talk to me about what we're going to see next weekend. Who are some of the big-name horses pointing for races like the Ashland Stakes and the Bluegrass?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had two pretty nice purse increases for both races. We're up to $750 on the Ashland and $1,250,000, which will be the richest Bluegrass we've ever run. And they're both pretty. I think they're wide open field. I mean, this year there's not really any major standouts. Maybe one of the ones out in California or Sovereignty that runs today, but it's going to be a deep field. I mean, obviously you got Owen Almighty, who just won the Tampa Bay Derby, nice speed horse. I think Chad Brown's going to run Chancer McPatrick, Grade 1 winner at 2, very, very nice horse, ran a big race in the Tampa Bay Derby, should be sitting on a big one second time back. You've got Todd Pletcher's nice horse, River Thames, second in the Fountain of Youth. You got Ian Wilkes' really nice colt down in Florida, Burnham Square. And then you've got the Breeders' Futurity winner from last year, East Avenue. I mean, I think he had no excuses last time, but he's going to be back on his track where he looked like the second coming to Secretariat last year. So it'll be interesting to see how it's a really intriguing Derby prep and great betting race. And I couldn't tell you who I think is going to win, but I'd say there's 2 or 3 really good ones that'll come out of it.
Yeah, super deep field, and those are some big names that you just walk through Gatewood. I'm really anxious and excited to see what East Avenue can do, if he can rebound. He didn't run well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. We know he had trouble at the start that day. He didn't run well in his comeback race in his 3-year-old debut. Is he the East Hall we saw in the Breeders' Futurity last year, or have other horses just passed him by? That's the big question that he's going to need to answer.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously had that excuse in the Breeders' Cup, and I mean, he's back here on his home track. He trained here last year a lot, and you know, some horses just like coming back to their birthplace in Kentucky. You see them; they just blossom in the spring here in Keeneland and Churchill. And if he's back to that horse that ran here in October, he'll definitely have something to say about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You mentioned the purse increases to those races. Keeneland has increased purses on several stakes races. The season overall has 19 stakes races, a record $9.4 million in purses. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, we've just obviously Kentucky Racing's doing great. That with the help of the KTDF funds, we've added a little bit of those, and then we've added some association funds to all those purses. So, I mean, even like the Bluegrass is $1 million of association funds, and it got to increase the Ashland up to $750. I mean, it's the first Grade 1 for 3-year-old fillies, the only one before the Oaks, and it's a race that deserves a purse increase like that and a standalone feature on opening Friday. And then all of our other Grade 1s, Maker's Mark Mile, Jenny Wiley, and the Madison are up to $650. So it's just a lot of positivity going on here at Keeneland. Obviously, we get great support by all our horsemen, owners, trainers. we get the best jockeys coming out, and they should be running for the most money. Handle's been really trending positively, which is a good sign for everybody. So, everybody deserves it. So hopefully it makes a bunch of fans and horsemen and everybody show up and put on another great product for everybody to enjoy here.
Gatewood, the focus is always on the 3-year-olds, the colts and the fillies when we get to Keeneland in the spring meet, and rightfully so. But there are several other big races taking place, not just on opening weekend, but certainly throughout the rest of the meet. What other stars might we see, maybe in the older horse division or the turf horse division? What can we look forward to there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the second weekend is really anchored by both the Maker's Mark Mile and the Jenny Wiley, and then you've kind of got the last stop, which is always a great race. Sometimes maybe not a Derby indicator, although this year it looks like there's a couple horses pointing for the Lexington that want to run back in the Derby. Maybe the coaches Justify colt that won the Virginia Derby, and that's always a very intriguing, great race. But the Jenny Wiley and the Maker's Mark Mile are definitely the focal points of the second weekend. And Chad Brown's gonna have, I would think, have a few to run in the Jenny Wiley. I think he's running Carl Spackler, who won our race in the fall, back in the Maker's Mark Mile, and we've got a couple of Europeans coming over, or Europeans via Dubai coming over for the Jenny Wiley. So it'll be very, very exciting, top level stuff on the turf.
Gatewood, it seems like everybody wants to race at Keeneland if they have a horse that fits, whether it's a greatest stakes or a maiden race or a allowance race, whatever it is. Everybody wants to be at Keeneland this time of year and competing on the big stage, if you will. When you have a purse increase like you did kind of across the board and all of the different money that's going to be offered throughout the spring meet, does it change your job in any way? I assume that when you go out and talk to people about racing at Keeneland, that it's a pretty easy sell because everybody wants to be there if they have a horse that can do it. But when you have this extra money involved now, does it make it different for you in any way?
Well, I mean, no, I just think it's just keep it up with. I mean, that's what they deserve to be running for. And I mean, really, we're very lucky at Keeneland. Obviously, it's got great tradition. It's a beautiful place, and I know the money helps, but I'd say a vast majority of the owners and that want to win here, it's almost more for the Julep Cup, for the Julep Cup that they win, and just winning in front of 20,000 fans or 30,000 fans, and all your colleagues are here, all the other breeders and owners and trainers are in the paddock wishing you good luck, or crossing their fingers or congratulating you after the races. People are cheering. It's just a very educated fan base, and it just makes it that's a huge part of what makes the place so special. I mean, it's the central, all the breeding farms around here. It's just the knowledgeable fan base and winning and competing in front of your peers and on a track that's got so much tradition and historical significance is a major part of it. Obviously the money increases, I wouldn't think hurt, but I do think we're in a very lucky, and we're all in an enviable position here that people want to run at Keeneland for more than just the money.
No doubt about it. And next week here on the network, we will be celebrating Good Magic Week all week long. It's presented by Keeneland Sales, and we'll celebrate the 2018 Bluegrass Stakes winner, Good Magic, and, of course, a horse that just did so many wonderful things throughout his career. Can't wait to look back on all of his big victories next week here on HRRN. Gatewood Bell, Gatewood, appreciate the visit, my friend. It's been a lot of fun to catch up, and all the best on opening weekend and throughout the entire meet.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mike. Thanks for all you do for horse racing, and hope to see you out here maybe.
You got it, brother. Gatewood Bell, Keeneland Vice President of Racing, opening day Friday, Central Bake Ashland, the feature race there, the Toyota Bluegrass coming up on Saturday. It's it's an exciting time to be a horse racing fan, especially if you're in the Bluegrass. Make sure you get out there and enjoy it. Should be spectacular. Want to remind you, too, that if you are going to be in town for the Keeneland meet, there is only one place to go enjoy a wonderful dinner after the races, and that is Tony's of Lexington. They're located just behind Rupp Arena on Main Street, and I've been talking about them on this show for many, many years. Tony Ricci, the owner, his entire team will take incredible care of you when you go in. It's a fantastic atmosphere, and the food is exceptional. It is the best steak I have ever had, and if you know me, I'm a steak and potatoes guy, so I know my steak, and you won't be disappointed. It's incredible. Go see them. Tell them that the Baron told you to come in, and they will take wonderful care of you, and you'll enjoy an incredible meal. Tony's of Lexington. Make your reservations now if you're going to be in town for the spring meet. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. You'll be thanking me for it afterwards. I promise you that. All right, when I come back, set to be joined by trainer Brad Cox. We'll look back on his big weekend last weekend and look ahead to what's coming up this weekend for the native of Louisville, Kentucky. It's our Kentucky-bred conversation. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
In honor of all those we've lost to cancer and those still fighting and thriving, like basketball analyst and cancer champion Dick Vitale.
I want to beat cancer. I'm going to beat it. That's no doubt in my mind. I'm going to win this battle.
Defeating cancer will take all of us. Join our team to help fund game-changing research that saves lives. At the V Foundation, V is for victory over cancer. V is for victory over the odds. V is for victory over health disparities, victory over setbacks, victory over the unknown. V is for victory over giving up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Donate to the V Foundation to join our team and help save lives.
Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul.
100% of donations fund game-changing cancer research. Donate now to the V Foundation at v.org.
Check out the all-new horseracingradio.net. All the same great horse racing radio content in a new, easy-to-use design. Listen to all of our shows streaming live or access the replays anytime. See our schedule, sign up for our newsletter, download our latest podcasts, and so much more. It's all on our website at horseracingradio.net. That's horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
As they straighten away, instant replay is moving from out of the backfield, but it's Built, and Built has taken the lead here for Jose Ortiz. It's Built in front. John Hancock has given way. Right there is Chunk of Gold between horses, and on the outside, Tiz-tastic as they come past the 16th with Joel Rosario. It's Tiz-tastic now pulling clear from Chunk of Gold. Instant replay, Tiz-tastic on top of the Louisiana Derby.
And Maximum Promise is hitting his stride. It's California Burrito, Jacoso. Here comes Final Gambit to the far outside, rolling home like a good thing. Check out Final Gambit and Luan Machado. They win the Jeff Ruby Stakes going away.
Brad Cox has become accustomed to big weekends. Last weekend, no exception, with good cheer and Final Gambit giving him big-time victories. He is this week's guest on our Kentucky Bred Conversation, presented by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development and Breeders' Incentive Funds, which issued a record $20 million in KTBIF awards this year to breeders of Kentucky-bred horses. Brad, I know it's a busy morning for you. I won't keep you long. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
Good, buddy. You know, when you think about some of the fillies that you've been around in your career, Monomoy Girl, She Dares the Devil, Idiomatic, Good Cheer, my goodness, she looks like she could be the next one.
Yeah, no, we're hopeful. We out of all those you name, none of them started 6 for 6, so she's definitely got her career kicked off in a big way. And obviously, we need to add some grade ones to her resume, and looking forward to 5 weeks from yesterday, I guess, and giving her the opportunity there at Churchill.
What was your takeaway on her win last weekend?
Ran big. I mean, obviously, Louis kind of kept her out of, kept her from getting pinned in and raced just a touch wide. Received lifetime best figures out of it. Excited about giving her 6 weeks. She's obviously shipped to Churchill. She's familiar with the place. Already galloped there a few days this week and moving great. And, it was a great run from her, and she's just ultra consistent.
Well, if that wasn't enough, you come back and win the Jeff Ruby Stakes with Final Gambit, and a horse that comes from far back, but boy, did he storm home.
Yeah, distance isn't going to be an issue for him. Obviously, the question mark with him is going to be the surface, but, he's a nice colt. We actually just shipped him over to Churchill, galloped him over the track a few days, and he's moving fantastic, come out of the race in great shape. So, looking forward to seeing how he trains over the next month there at Churchill.
Pedigree-wise, he certainly fits. He came out of a maiden win, then you put him right into the Jeff Ruby Stakes. What gave you the confidence he would compete?
I really liked his maiden win. He started on the turf at Churchill in the fall. I thought he ran really well. Tyler Gaffleone rode him, had a lot of positive things to say about him. The second race, he just really wasn't where we wanted him, or really, I don't think he was comfortable in his second race. Kind of was asked to maybe be a little bit closer than he's comfortable being. In his last run, I thought visually it was very, very good. Didn't really get the figure that I thought he would receive. So I just said, you know what, if we can get in the Ruby, we'll take a chance. If not, we'll back up to the Rushaway. And we were actually very lucky to get in. He was almost kept out just due to earnings or lack of earnings. And, it all worked out. And, he showed that distance isn't an issue. The further, the better for him.
You'll saddle another very talented 3-year-old in today's Florida Derby, and Tappan Street comes out of that second-place effort in the Holy Bull. Haven't seen him since. Tell me more about Tappan Street.
Good horse. I really like him. Does everything right, seems to be moving forward. I think he's moved forward a good bit since the Holy Bull. He's worked well with Saudi Crown the last 3 weeks. I mean, look, he's been breezing with a good horse, previous Grade 1 winner, and he holds his own. So, he's given us a lot of confidence. We've wanted to space his races, let him develop, and he has. Obviously, his last race, we were beaten by a good horse. We're facing a lot of good horses again today. So he does need to step up. But I think if he gets a good trip, and I think whoever wins the race today, we'll look back and we'll say he did get a good trip, because it's a competitive race. And if he does get the trip, I think he's going to be right there. He's a very good colt.
Yeah, if he can stick with Saudi Crown in the morning, he's okay. Saudi Crown goes in the Grade 3 Oaklawn Mile in Arkansas today. What are you looking for there? Obviously a win.
Yeah, I absolutely. Break running. I think he is a better two-turn horse, and I do think he's best mile and 16th is probably his preferred distance, even though his lone Grade 1 was at a mile and an eighth. He's a good horse. Obviously no White Barrio here today. Still a good race, but no White Barrios to contend with, and hopefully he breaks running, gets a good forward position, and can handle the two-turn mile there at Oakland.
I'll ask you about one more horse before I let you go. California Sunset going in the Grade 2 Fantasy later today at Oakland.
Tough spot. We're looking for a placing. She's stakes place. A graded placing would be big. I think we would be happy with a graded placing, but we're in it to win it. She's trained well. We're back a little quick off the allowance race. we'll see how it goes. But she's trained well. She's run several times. She's knocked on the door several times. She could break her maiden by a neck, but she always shows up and runs. We just need some things to go our way. Probably a perfect trip would lead to maybe winning the race. So we'll see if she can get that.
Brad, you'll be back in the Bluegrass next week. Of course, you're a native of Louisville. This is a Kentucky Bred Conversation segment. I know you're going to be loaded for opening weekend at Keeneland, and a lot more money to run for now, which is even better.
Yeah, no, look, it's what, that's one reason I'm spending my morning here at Payson before I head down to Gulfstream. And, a lot of being here has to do with being ready to run at Keeneland when we come back and Churchill. So, that's home for us. We obviously we're always trying to do well, but, Keeneland means a lot, especially to someone from Kentucky, and being ready to run when we start that meet. It's very important, and we'll see how it goes.
Good luck today, my friend. Always appreciate the time.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right, Brad Cox with this week's Kentucky Bred Conversation. Of course, you can tune in next Saturday morning for another edition of the Kentucky Bred Conversation. First implemented in 2005, the KTBIF has provided more than $250 million to breeders of Kentucky Breds winning eligible races worldwide. In 2024, Kentucky Breds won 72% of graded stakes races in the United States, including the 3 legs of the Triple Crown with 3 different horses, and captured 10 Eclipse Awards, led by Horse of the Year and champion 3-year-old filly Torpedo Anna, and were named Co-Longines World's Best Racehorses with City of Troy and Laurel River. With the average field size of 8.9 horses, all sources wagering on Kentucky racing has grown the past 4 years, and we do not plan on slowing down. Kentucky Breds, breed them, raise them, race them, we all win. For more information on racing and breeding in Kentucky, visit KentuckyBreds.com. Yeah, Brad, I always say that you can sometimes tell by a trainer or an owner's tone or even a jockey's tone. When you ask them about a horse, their voice goes to another level. Their confidence level increases. And when I asked him about Tappan Street, he immediately said, good horse. Those were the first 2 words out of his mouth, good horse. Brad Cox knows a good horse. And then he elaborated and talked about how he's been breezing with Saudi Crown and holding his own with Saudi Crown. Tappan Street's a very interesting horse in that Florida Derby this afternoon. And I'm asking you which race, the Florida Derby or the Arkansas Derby, you feel is more likely to give us the winner of this year's Kentucky Derby. And historically, it has been the Florida Derby, the number 1 prep race if you want to win the Roses. The Florida Derby leading 54 to 46% right now. 54% of you saying the Florida Derby is the race most likely. And, it may not even be Sovereignty. Sovereignty coming out of that huge win last time out in the Fountain of Youth, a race that admittedly he wasn't fully cranked for. If he's fully cranked today, yes, he has an outside post. That's not an advantage. But if he's fully cranked, he could be really scary in this spot this afternoon. And if you heard me mention this earlier, when referring to winners or horses coming out of the Florida Derby that have had so much success in Kentucky, it's okay not to win the Florida Derby. You don't have to win it to have success. But a good effort is what you're looking for from your horse. You want them going in the right direction, and Sovereignty certainly is. He's going to look to continue that today. But Tappan Street, really, really nice horse. And my thanks to Brad for taking time there. It's a very busy morning for him. Always appreciate the visit. Time now to take a look at a couple dates in racing history as they applied to this particular weekend. It was March 29th, 1917, that Man of War, who would go on to win 20 of his 21 career starts, was foaled at Nursery Stud in Lexington, Kentucky. March 29th, 1938, in observance of Man of War's 21st birthday. The celebration was broadcast nationally via radio from Faraway Farm, where he stood at stud. How cool is that? I think that's fantastic. I'd love to broadcast a birthday party of a horse as great as Man of War. You say, well, how do you broadcast a birthday party? You find a way when it's Man of War. March 29th, 1969, Diane Crump became the first female jockey to win a stakes race when she took the Spring Fiesta Cup at the fairgrounds aboard Easy Lime. And those are dates in racing history as they applied to this particular weekend in thoroughbred racing. Getting ready for hour number 3, 2 in the books. If you missed any portion of the first 2 hours of the show, make sure you check out the podcast after we finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can do that at horseracingradio.net and on every podcast platform. Be sure to stay with me for hour 3. Plenty more content coming your way. If your local station is leaving us at this time, you can continue listening to the third hour of the show nationwide on Sirius 162, XM 207, in the Louisville, Kentucky market on ESPN 680, or on your computer, phone, tablet with our live streaming at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is straight ahead right after I pause. 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
And Barbaro struts his stuff. It is Barbaro to the final furlong. He is a neck in front of Sharp Humor, who will not go away. Barbaro only ahead in front. Sharp Humor runs his heart out at the rail. Sun River a closing third. Barbaro, Sharp Humor. Barbaro's got him. Barbaro wins. Here they come into the stretch of the Arkansas Derby. And it is Smarty Jones who takes command and draws clear by 3 lengths. Purge is still second. Perigo now moves to the middle in third. Smarty Jones leads it by 3.5 and is pulling away. They're driving toward the wire. It is Smarty Jones by 3. Perigo trying to make one lane move. Pro Prado at the rail. Smarty Jones leading by 2. It is Smarty Jones. One step more to Kentucky.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
An American Pharaoh is putting on a show. He has not been asked the question, but everyone knows the answer. He is indeed the ruler. American Pharaoh, breathtaking in a mesmerizing performance as he dominates the Arkansas Derby.
Nyquist has moved away. Mohamed has no answer today. On the inside is Mahesto, and then comes Fellowship. Nyquist drifting out to the center of the track, but he's far in front. And Nyquist is still unbeaten. He has won the Florida Derby.
Now, here's Mike Penna.
Well, how about those memories in the opening montage to hour number 3 here this morning? Fantastic stuff. Great day of racing coming up this afternoon as well with the Florida Derby, the Arkansas Derby, major Derby implications on the line this afternoon. Mike Penna, Baron in the backstretch, happy to have you back in the saddle with me. One more hour to go. If you missed any portion of the first 2 hours, my goodness, did you miss a lot. Head back and check out the podcast when you get some time. Had a chance to catch up with the brother tandem of Jake and Jeff Delhomme. Had a chance to catch up with trainer Lonnie Briley, talking about coal battle in today's Arkansas Derby. Should be a really fun listen if you want to head back when you get some time and listen to the first 2 hours and stay with me for this third hour of the show. And, of course, you can catch all of our podcasts at horseracingradio.net, and you can do it, too, on every podcast platform. Time now to kick off hour 3 as we do every week with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Joining me now is James Scully. James, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. It's a pleasure to be with you. It's the best time of year. For myself, a huge Kentucky Derby fan. I love these prep races. Got 2 big ones today and 4 big ones next Saturday, and then the Kentucky Derby will really be coming into shape then.
Yep, the picture's starting to come into focus a little bit, and I still have to say, James, I think it is very muddled at this point. I think everybody seems to be on the same playing field. Journalism is maybe the leader right now, but he has to prove that last race is legit and come back in next weekend Santa Anita Derby. We may have some answers to some questions later today, though.
Yeah, that is very possible. We could get definitely, I think, Florida Derby and Arkansas Derby. We could produce a big performance, a big winner number from the winner. Journalism is the standard bearer now. He got the best number of anybody winning his last prep, but the thing is that you referenced it. His Los Val for Charity win last 2 starts back wasn't that fast, so he has to keep moving forward. And there's definitely a lot of lightly raced 3-year-olds to me that are eligible to step forward in this last prep race and establish themselves as serious contenders as well. So it's definitely in flux right now. But journalism to me is the standard bearer, the leader in the clubhouse.
All right, you've chosen 3 races for our listeners this morning. We'll start with the Grade 2 Fasig-Tipton Gulfstream Park Oaks, which is 1 mile and a 16th, race 9 at Gulfstream Park as part of the Florida Derby program this afternoon. Then we'll head over to Oaklawn. We'll talk about a couple of races there, including the Arkansas Derby. Weather likely to have an impact on what we're going to see in Hot Springs, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's start at Gulfstream Park. That Gulfstream Park Oaks, again, race 9, 3:31 Eastern. How'd you see that one, my friend?
Yeah, a major Kentucky Oaks qualifier, 100 points to the winner. And the thing with me is that I do think this mile and the 16th distance is going to be a test for the 2 favorites. The Queen's MG has never been 2 turns in any of her starts, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for her. She's definitely not overwhelming in terms of numbers. I thought she got the right trip in the Brian Nadeau, and the runner-up to me was a little bit short off her last race and the third-place finisher as well. So I think she's potentially vulnerable going a mile and a 16th here. 5G, who's the morning line favorite, to me, speed is her main weapon, but she was on the best part of the track in the Honeybee, and I think she's going to face more pressure. I really like Paradise City, Mike, and I really like her off that last race going a mile and a 16th, the one-horse McKenzie filly for Saffie Joseph. This is a filly to me that has always been well regarded, absolutely, and it's been well backed in all of her starts. And she was a filly that to me was crying out for more distance in some of these starts. She did get a chance to go 2 turns as a 2-year-old, but came back this year and ran at 7 furlongs. And then in that cash run, her second start back this year at a 1-turn mile, 5G just got the jump on her. Paradise City got a little bit caught up in traffic, but the turn of foot she offered to be a clear second and really rally that day showed that she was like progressing and moving forward. And then she stretched out to 2 turns last time. And I just thought that was a terrific effort. When going away by open lengths like she did, she got a really solid figure that compares favorably to her main rivals. And this is a McKenzie filly who is out of a mare by Yankee Gentleman, who her dam, Washington Bridge, won the Grade 2 by Koa. Another 2-turn stakes was a 2-turn runner. The second dam on the maternal side, on the dam side, the second dam sire is Prized, who won the 1.5-mile Breeders' Cup Turf. So there's loads of stamina in this female family, and I just think that with a good setup insured, not only do we have 5G, but we got some speed on the outside with Anna's Promise. And the Queen's MG, I expect to be up close early. So I'm expecting a good setup for Paradise City. I'm going to look for her to keep moving forward for Saffie Joseph.
Yeah, and one other note there regarding Paradise City, your top pick, her 2 wins have both come with a gentleman named Edgar Zayas in the irons. He's back aboard for this race later today. So that bodes well, too. He certainly gets along well with her.
Yeah, and last time she did go to Lasix because it was an allowance, but she had run without Lasix in the cash run before. Showed me plenty that she can handle, run her same race or just as well without Lasix. And she's progressing. Since that allowance win, she's really trained forwardly, working 5-furlong bullet works at Prairie Meadows, And I just think she's really coming on, and she's got a filly that's really going to fit this 2-turn trip where I question whether her rivals could be more like sprint middle distance types.
All right, James Scully kicking off this week's TwinSpires Triple Play with a bit of an upset pick, 10-1 on the morning line on number 1 Paradise City in that 9th race at Gulfstream Park. James, let's move over to Oaklawn, Hot Springs, Arkansas. There is a chance of rain coming up later today. Last I looked at the forecast, it showed showers in the morning, then clearing in the afternoon. But there's a chance we could have a wet track for the Arkansas Derby and some of the races down there today. But let's start with the 7th race. 6 furlongs on the main track. 3:40 Eastern is the post. How'd you see this one?
I like number 6, Echo Again, and this is a 5-year-old gelding. It's going to make his second start off the claim for Mark Cassie. Listen, Cassie has always been a trainer that I've been followed for years that does well, better second off the claim. He always tends to give these horses a race when he claims them. And in fact, he's 5 for his last 16 second start off the claim. Echo Again last summer ran on a sloppy track at Ellis Park. He ran a good second that day, got his top figure he had earned in his career that day. So he relished, I think, the off-going. And he was really coming on last, I thought, fall for Asmussen, but he did drop him into a 50 claimer to get a confidence-building win. Was a real sharp winner, 2 back. And nothing went right for him in his comebacker in late January at Oaklawn. He was ranked from the start. Just wasn't, and was also in a non-winners of 2 other than a pretty tricky little, a tough little allowance field. So off of that race, Cassie has gelded Echo Again. He has put a whole bunch of fast workouts. I mean, he has worked 4 times in the last 4 weeks. He's got a 4 half-mile bullet work at Oaklawn in preparation. He's just going to take a big step forward off that last effort, I believe, Mike. And I like the value, 10-1. The other thing I like about him is that he's tactical Echo Again, but he's not a need-to-lead type. And all the speed in this field is drawn. The serious speed is drawn to his inside in posts 1, 2, and 4. So I see a really potential for a really good stock and pounds trip with Ricardo Santana on the Echo Again, and I like his chances today in the 7th race at Oaklawn.
And you get rewarded with that morning line 10-1. You think we get right around 10-1, or could he float up even higher?
Well, I'm always worried about him drifting down and other people sort of seeing this angle because I'm a little bit dubious of the favorites in here. So, even if he's like 8-1 range, I'll be really happy with that price, Mike. But I am always a little bit leery, worried. I mean, this is a horse that's been favored in 2 of his last 4 starts, and last time he was 2-1. So, I'm optimistic. But I won't be surprised if he's a little bit lower than 10-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point. Number 6, Echo Again, the top pick for James Scully in the 7th at Oaklawn. Race 13 is the final leg you've chosen for this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. The Grade 1 Arkansas Derby, $1.5 million on the line, and 100 Kentucky Derby points to the winner. Mile and an eighth on the main track. Who wins the Arkansas Derby?
I like Sandman. I like Sandman to get it done today. And to me, the real key to this race is going to be Speed King. This is because I know Cornucopian is going to be tied on for speed. He's been, drilling 6 furlong bullet works. He led wire to wire brilliantly at 6 furlongs at Oaklawn Park on February 23rd. He's going to show speed from that outside. But Speed King is a colt who won his race on the front end in his first 3 starts and won 2 of the 3, including the Southwest, and ran a really good second to Cole Battle in the Springboard Mile. So his best races come when he is dictating the early fractions. And they tried something new with Speed King and the Rebel, and it just didn't work out. And they were going to stalk up close, and he wound up running 10th. Ron Moquette, Speed King's trainer, has put a 5 furlong bullet and a half-mile bullet into him. I expect him to be alongside Cornucopian in the early stages. Those 2 are going to ensure a decent pace. And Sandman, to me, Mike, is a colt who was really just turned a corner this year for over the winter for Mark Cassie, an excellent allowance win, totally flubbed the start in the Southwest and rallied to be a good second. And last time in that Rebel, that was a forward playing track, and I just did not understand the trip that he got that afternoon. He was too far back. He was in tight, had to check momentarily on the backside, in fact, towards the back of the pack. And that, like I said, that track played forward, and it worked against him. And I love the jock switch to Jose Ortiz because he's not going to have him way far back today. He's going to have him more towards mid-pack. This horse doesn't have to be last to first type. I think if he's sitting 5th, 4th, 5th, or 6th, he'll be just fine behind the speed. And I think he's going to take a step forward. I think he's going to relish the stretch out. One thing I know is that he's absolutely bred to love a wet track, Sandman, And I think he's set for his best and just needs a little bit of a break with this trip. And obviously, I respect Cole Battle. I think, he's a main rival. But I think Sandman is poised to finally put it all together this afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he certainly is a horse that's been highly regarded for quite some time, and he'll need a big effort later today to prove to Mark Casse that he's worthy of a spot in the starting gate on the first Saturday in May. Hard to believe we're just 5 weeks away. I'm sure TwinSpires will have plenty of promotions and incentives for horse players coming up over the course of the next 5 weeks, but certainly today, too. What's going on at TwinSpires?
Yeah, I mean, we've had it all. We've had it for ever since these races started picking up points at Oaklawn Park and Gulfstream with the Arkansas Derby and Florida Derby. We have our 15% Road to Kentucky Derby profit boost promotion. 15% profit boost on all winning win, exacta, try, and superfecta wagers up to $25. It's a great promo all day. We have other money back promotions and cash or points giveaways at other tracks. Make sure you go to the offers page and opt in. And we're going to have the inaugural Kentucky Derby betting challenge on Derby Day this year. It's a great contest. We have a tournaments tab at TwinSpires. If you like live money handicapping contests, we're the place for that. Go to the tournaments tab, check out our schedule and details. It's going to be a big weekend at TwinSpires, and excited for the build-up to the Kentucky Derby as always, Mike.
All right, let's recap James's top three for you here this morning. In the 9th race at Gulfstream, he'll take number 1, Paradise City, morning line 10-1. Race 7 at Oaklawn, he'll go with number 6, Echo again, also 10-1 on the morning line. And in race 13, the Arkansas Derby, he'll take the Mark Casse-trained Sandman, number 6, 3-1 on the morning line. Remember, you can play those races and all the races you're going to bet this weekend and every weekend with TwinSpires. James, appreciate the visit. All the best with those picks and every race you're going to bet this weekend, my friend.
Always my pleasure, Mike, and best of luck to you today and this weekend.
All right, we'll talk again soon. That is James Scully with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Coming up next, Kurt Becker will take you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History, and still to come, Delhomme's Tim Wilkin. I Ask, They Answer. Plenty of things to talk about with them in that segment coming up at 10:30 Eastern. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All the action, all the biggest players, all in one place. Follow the action from the racetrack to the sales ring at Keeneland on closing day of the spring meet. Right place, right time, right here. Make your move at the April Selected Horses of Racing Age sale, Friday, April 25th at Keeneland. Learn more at april.keeneland.com.
Eddie Woods is consistently among the industry's leading 2-year-old consigners, and his training program is enjoying another banner year with 10 stakes winners already in 2025, including juvenile champion Citizen Bull, Sunland Park Derby winner Getaway Car, leading Kentucky Oaks contender Good Cheer, Razorback winner Alexander Helios, Taking Candy winner of the Fairground Stakes, and Grade 2 winner JB Strikes Back. Find your next winner at the Eddie Woods Consignment, see the full consignment, and learn more at eddiewoods.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. He was a champion racehorse, a champion sire, and a champion broodmare sire. He dazzled on the racecourses of Europe and commanded the greatest of respect worldwide through his impact on the breed. His name was Galileo. Foaled on March 30th, 1998 in Ireland, Galileo was a bay colt by Sadler's Wells out of Urban Sea by Miswaki. Both his sire and dam were champions at the races as well as in the stud. Bred by Coolmore under the Orpendale banner and bred also by David Suey, who had raced Urban C, Galileo was sent to Aidan O'Brien for training and would race in the names of Susan Magner and Michael Tabor. Standing 16 and a half hands high and sporting a blaze and a white sock, Galileo would make the first 3 starts of his career at Leopardstown, and all 3 would result in victories. That included 1 start as a juvenile and his first 2 starts as a sophomore. As for his career debut, it came on October 28, 2000, and his winning effort made headlines. Galileo hits the mark, declared the Dublin edition of the Sunday Independent. Turf writer Ray Glennon said, Galileo may not have beaten a top-class field yesterday, but the colt showed plenty of ability and may well prove to be one of Ballydoyle's Derby horses next year. O'Brien indicated that Galileo had suffered from a persistent cough, which was why his debut had been delayed until the fall. But he added that jockey Michael Mick Kinnan had been impressed with Galileo in his work some months ago. Galileo opened his 3-year-old campaign with 2 more wins at Leopardstown, both in stakes company, including the Group 3 Darrenstown Derby Trial Stakes at 1.25 miles. But on June 9, 2001, it was time for Galileo to leave Ireland and venture into England, where the stakes would be much higher. A crowd of 150,000 had gathered at Epsom Downs for the 222nd running of the Epsom Derby. Sent to the post as the co-favorite, Galileo took the lead a 1/4 mile from the finish and scored the win in 2 minutes 33.27 seconds for the distance of about 1.5 miles. The time, the second fastest in the classic race's history. This horse finds it very easy to go fast, said O'Brien, and he has an action that he could gallop on water. 3 weeks later, it was back to Ireland, this time at the Curragh, for the Group 1 Irish Derby. It would be the 136th running of the race, and it would come on a hot, sticky afternoon. Galileo laid off the pace until there were 2 furlongs to go, and then he stormed to the front at will. Winning by 4 lengths as the odds-on favorite, Galileo ran his record to 5 for 5 by covering 12 furlongs in 2 minutes 27.1 seconds, the second fastest time in the race's history. He also became the 14th sophomore to score the Epsom Irish Double, and the victory was the first in the Irish Derby for Kinnan, who had previously gone 0 for 17 in the event, despite being an 11-time champion Irish jockey. With 2 derbies under his belt, Galileo next took aim at older horses with the 51st running of the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Diamond Stakes at Ascot on July 28th. A record crowd of 38,000 was on hand as a classic Godolphin versus Coolmore battle took shape when 5-year-old Fantastic Light came forward in the stretch to issue a challenge.
It's a turn for home. The sprint comes for Galileo. He takes it up now with just under 2 furlongs to travel. Here's Fantastic Light. The battle's on. It's Galileo the far side. Fantastic Light serving it up on the near side from Molinari and then storming home. It's Fantastic Light and Galileo locked together. A furlong left to go. Galileo digging deep the far side. He's got about a head in front. Fantastic Light can't get him. The 3-year-old's going to win it. Galileo triumphant in the King George.
After going to the post as the 1-2 favorite and taking advantage of a break in the weights because of his relative youth, Galileo went the 12-furlong distance in 2 minutes 27.71 seconds. It was the 3rd fastest time in the race's history. After the race, O'Brien commented that Galileo had both tactical speed and the courage of a lion. Kinnan said, "This horse has no weakness." Godolphin trainer Saeed bin Saror said simply, "He's remarkable." A little over a month later, Fantastic Light would get revenge by handing Galileo the first loss of his career by a head in the Group 1 Irish Champion Stakes. And Galileo would make his final start in October, shipping to the U.S. for the Breeders' Cup Classic at Belmont Park, where he would finish off the board in his lone try on dirt. Retiring to stallion duty at Coolmore, Galileo would reach worldwide prominence by becoming a 12-time champion sire, including a record 5 winners of the Epsom Derby. He would also sire more than 100 individual group or Grade 1 winners. Galileo died in July of 2021 at the age of 23, prompting Coolmore's John Magner to remark, "He was a very special horse to us, and the effect he is having on the breed through his sons and daughters will be a lasting legacy." Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Thanks, Kurt, for that story. And remember, all of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments are available via podcast on our website. And don't miss our Weekend Stakes preview show with Bobby Newman and Bob Nastanovich, which is also available right now at horseracingradio.net. I Ask, They Answer with Dale and Tim coming up next. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Experience the Keeneland Florida Derby at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, March 29th as world-class thoroughbreds compete on the road to the Triple Crown right here in Allendale. For reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Hey, this is Bobby Newman. Join me every Friday afternoon to dive deep into handicapping the races. We'll cover the live action from some of the biggest tracks in the country, talk to some of the major players in the game, and hopefully make a little money along the way. You can also call the show to share your opinions, ask a question or two, or maybe just vent about some bad beats. It's Betting with Bobby every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, online channel 999, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
As they straighten away, instant replay is moving from out of the backfield, but it's Built, and Built has taken the lead here for Jose Ortiz. It's Built in front. John Hancock has given way. Right there is Chunk of Gold between horses, and on the outside, Tiz-tastic as they come past the 16th with Joel Rosario. It's Tiz-tastic now pulling clear from Chunk of Gold. Instant replay, Tiz-tastic on top of the Louisiana Derby.
And Maximum Promise is hitting his stride. It's California Burrito, Jacoso. Here comes Final Gambit to the far outside, rolling home like a good thing. Check out Final Gambit and Luan Machado. They win the Jeff Ruby Stakes going away.
Tiz-tastic and Final Gambit pulling off a pair of Derby prep upsets last weekend. Which of those horses would Dale and Tim prefer to have with just 5 weeks remaining until the Run for the Roses? Plus, is Sierra Leone still a serious player in this year's older horse division? And has British racing given the world a new formula for handling walkovers? All of that and so much more straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf rider Tim Wilkin, and all presented by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program and the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
All right, guys, plenty of topics to get to this morning. It's a very busy edition of I Ask, They Answer. Let's begin by looking back at what we saw on the racetrack last weekend with the Derby points race winners. Which one would you rather have following their most recent victory? Would you like to have Louisiana Derby winner Tiz-tastic or Jeff Ruby Stakes winner Final Gambit? Tim Wilkin, which one you taking?
Boy, I don't know if I want either of them, but if I have to take one, I'll take Tiz-tastic because I'm a fan of Tiz the Law, his sire. Steve Asmussen he's had no success in the Derby. 0 for 26. Is this the one that's getting good at the right time? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he beat in Louisiana. And Final Gambit, synthetic horse, his first, I think his last 3 starts have been on synthetic. And I'm not a fan of synthetic horses going to the Derby, even though there has been some success there. Rich Strike.
ran in this race in 2022, was third in the Jeff Ruby and won the Derby. Lily T won the Derby. Animal Kingdom, Two Phils was second in the Derby a couple years ago, came out of this race. I mean, Final Gambit has some breeding-wise says okay on dirt, but I'm not going to take him when there's other more accomplished horses on dirt. But if I had to take one of these, I'll take Tistastic.
I'll give you Tistastic. I'm going Final Gambit. I'm on the not this time bandwagon. Good connections, coming around at the right time. He could be something, a sleeper in the crowd.
Every week we ask listeners to submit questions for you guys, and Tom in St. Louis has a question on this very same topic. He said, after seeing those two upsets, is it more of a sign that this year's Derby is wide open or an indication that the cream hasn't quite risen to the top just yet and clarity could still be coming over the next couple of weekends? What do you think, guys? Tim?
Well, it's an interesting question. Since the 3-year-old season started, there's been 19 prep races, and there's only been one horse that's repeated, and that's Coal Battle, who's also running today in Arkansas. But you still got the big heavyweights that still have to that could make their mark as being the dominant runner in this division. I mean, Sovereignty, who won the Fountain of Youth, is running the Florida Derby. If he wins that, he's going to be really, really high on the list if he isn't already. And still to come is Journalism and the Citizen Bull out west. I don't think we've seen the one horse that has established himself as the one yet. But that could change in the next couple of weeks. So as far as his question goes, I think the cream is still waiting to rise.
Yeah, I like these kind of years when it's an even bunch of horses and there's a lot of horses to talk about, and the cream really hasn't risen to the top. And that's the great thing about the Derby. All these horses are in their regions. They're all the best in each region, and most of them will all meet for the first time on the first Saturday of May and figure out who's the best in the country. And I think it's a fun year. I think there's a lot of good horses out there. It's going to be a wide-open Derby, it looks like, and no big favorite. And then the cream will rise that day.
Dale, if you could have one horse that's on the Derby trail right now in your barn today, who would it be?
It'd probably be the 2-year-old champion, Bob's horse. He's he's still the one I think is leader in the clubhouse so far.
It seems like a lot of people aren't talking about Citizen Bull at this point after Journalism's win and Barnes finishing second. Maybe Citizen Bull steps up next Saturday and asserts himself as being the horse to beat.
He is being under-talked about, I think, and he's a champion. So I just, with Bob, guiding the ship, I think that he's the horse right now.
Well, you sound like me.
I'm jumping on the Bob bandwagon. You finally convinced me.
Well, if that's the case, you guys are going to love this next topic. Today's Arkansas Derby is headlined by the Bob Baffert-trained Cornucopian, a $1.1 million yearling purchase who rolled to a 5.5-length win in his only career start on February 23rd. The Florida Derby includes two horses who sold for $1 million or higher as yearlings. You have Todd Pletcher with Disruptor and Tappan Street from the barn of Brad Cox. Which of those $3 million-plus babies is more likely to secure a spot in Louisville on the first Saturday in May with a big win later today? Dale, what do you think?
I'm going with Bob again in the Arkansas Derby. There's been a lot of talk about that move straight from maiden right to the big race, but I mean he's obviously a talented horse, and Bob obviously wants to get him there, and he's could be anything. It's going to be an interesting race today to see how he runs.
Yeah, Bob's won that race 5 times, and this is his one shot to get to the Derby with his horse. That's going from that maiden right into this race, and let's say he does win the Arkansas Derby, but he's still got history going against him. Horse with 2 starts has never won. I think he's only won the Derby once, and that was in the 1860s. So he'd have to this horse would have to be a super horse to be able to do that. So that's my surprise here, but I'm going to get off of his bandwagon and go. I'm going to Disruptor. For Todd, that horse broke his maiden and second start by 9, almost 10 lengths on the undercard of the Fountain of Youth Day, and there were rumblings back in January that this horse was going to win the Florida Derby. That shows you how much respect this horse has gotten. So I think I'm going with Disruptor.
Yeah, some very talented youngsters. We'll see who asserts themselves later today. Also an interesting storyline in the Florida Derby, guys, with Sovereignty likely to be the favorite in there. He's going to have a new rider today. Manny Franco pinch hitting for Junior Alvarado after Alvarado sustained a shoulder injury this past week, which is expected to keep him out of action for about 3 weeks now. In sports, they say that you don't lose your spot to injury. So if Sovereignty were to roll to a big win today, which rider is Bill Mott and owners Godolphin going to stick with in the Kentucky Derby? Dale, what do you think?
I say it's Junior. I say him and Bill have a connection, and they click together. And I think going to the Derby, you want your guy on your horse. So I think he goes back to Junior no matter what happens today.
I have to agree with that. I mean, Junior's been the main guy for that stable for several years now, and Mike Stolito, Junior's agent, is really tight with Bill. I mean, he's like his right arm. Junior's not going to lose this mount because he got hurt. Manny Franco's he's a very, very good rider. He's won the Florida Derby before. He did it with his DeLaw. He's a pinch hitter. That's what he is. He's just going to come in here and do the best that he can on this horse. It's starting from the outside post position, which is no bargain. But if Sovereignty wins, I think he goes back to Junior. If Sovereignty doesn't win, I think he goes back to Junior. I think it's an open and shut case on this one.
We've all seen situations like this from time to time in racing. Dale, how does it typically work? Junior Alvarado obviously wants Sovereignty to run well. He wants to see him win, even though he's not aboard. And if what you guys just outlined is true, and he's going to be back aboard for the Kentucky Derby, he really wants to see a big performance today. Does Junior go to Manny Franco and have a conversation with him about maybe some of the subtleties and intricacies of Sovereignty and let him kind of give him some inside information, if you will?
I'm sure he will. Yeah, there's no bigger fan of this horse than Junior, and he does want him to do well, and he wants Bill to do well. And he knows there's a decision to make, but sure, he's a team player, and he's going to go talk to Manny. And if there's any peculiarity about the horse, Manny will know it when he gets legged up.
I agree with that. It goes back to, remember the movie Seabiscuit when Tobey Maguire got hurt, Red Pollard character? And he was in the hospital, and he brought in George Wolfe, a.k.a. Gary Stevens, and went over the whole deal about the race with him and what he should do to win the big cap with Seabiscuit. Yeah, I think that they definitely will talk. I mean, it's Junior's never been. I mean, Manny's never been on this horse, and he's going to want to know everything he can to have an advantage. So, yeah, sure. Why wouldn't they talk? They're on the same team, really.
That's a great way to put it.
And there's no better team player than Junior.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel for the guy. This is his big horse right now, and not like he hasn't had other big horses in the past, especially with Bill Mott, but this is a big one for him now, and to have to sit this one out has to be killing him.
Yeah, the same way with Tyler Gaffleone, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully those two riders can get back healthy again and get back in the saddle very, very soon. Two of the top riders in the sport today. Let's move on to our good friend Nick Zito. Say hello to him. And Dale and Tim, you get to tell me if the following statement is right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
All right, Nicky, let's find out. You had 3-year-old champion Sierra Leone coming back to the races last weekend. He was upset by Louisiana-bred Touchuponastar in the New Orleans Classic. Following that third-place effort, would it be right or wrong to write off Sierra Leone as a major player in this year's older horse division?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Tim, is that right or wrong?
It's wrong. I mean, there's no way that Chad Brown wanted Sierra Leone to win that race, but he didn't have him all cranked up to win the New Orleans Classic. That's not the main goal on his dance card this year. He didn't get the right pace set up, obviously, and he was running a little bit at the end. I mean, I think it was a useful debut for this year, and I think he just moves forward from that. So, toss Sierra Leone at your own risk. I think he's going to be a player this year.
Major player. I was wrong last week. I thought he would gallop, but this wasn't a bad come-out race, and he'll be a major player by the end of the year. That's for sure.
Let me flip it around. Touchuponastar. Is it right or wrong to say that he is going to be a major player now in this division going forward this year?
I hope he is. He's obviously a nice horse. It's a good story, good connection. Louisiana-bred star guitar. I hope he is. I don't know if he's just a horse for course, or if he can go around the country and run as good as he does at fairgrounds with the big boys. But I would like to see him in the picture.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, it is a good story, but maybe maybe that was his one shining moment for this year, winning that race, and maybe goes back to running against the Louisiana breds unless they take a leap of faith with him and try him again at some of the bigger races. That race was scratched down to, I think originally 10 in that field. I think there's 5 in there. He had the race his own way. Good for Jake Delhomme and those people, but I don't think he's going to be able to. And I might be wrong, but I don't think he's going to be able to buck heads with the likes of Fierceness and Locked and Mind Frame and Way to Barrio, and as we get deeper into the handicap season. But it certainly would be a good story for horse racing, and horse racing always loves good stories. At least I do.
Yeah, I had a chance to visit with Jake and Jeff Delhomme, the connections of Touchuponastar, in the first hour of the program this morning, and I just love their dynamic. I love the way that they are so passionate about the horse and about the industry in Louisiana. It would be a great story if he were to go on and tackle some bigger horses down the road. We'll see if he does. That decision is still forthcoming from the Delhomme camp, but we'll bring back Nick Zito for Right or Wrong on I Ask They Answer next Saturday morning. Couple more topics to get to before we get to our West Point of the week, and one of these involves the story that came out in the Seattle Times this week indicating Emerald Downs may have some difficult times ahead following the news of increasing HISA fees. And according to the report, Emerald Downs' fees would increase by as much as 89% from $712,000 to more than $1.34 million next year, causing incredible uncertainty with the Seattle track. And fear is growing that Emerald won't be the only small track to face these types of financial challenges. So, guys, my question to you is, how should the industry deal with this latest blast of negative news surrounding smaller racetracks? Dale, what do you think?
Well, that's a tough issue. I mean, you've got New York and Kentucky and places with major handles being unfairly charged now because it's based on starts and handle. 2026 is supposed to go basically just on starts. So you got complaining at Kentucky and in New York that, they're carrying all the weight and it costs just as much to oversee Emerald Downs as it does Churchill Downs. And so they were complaining. So the formula got changed. The bottom line is the government should have never put a bill on us that said we had to finance it. We got mandated that we had to have it, and then mandated that we had to pay for it. And something's just wrong with that picture. And it's going to be a big problem for all the small tracks. It's a big problem, the other formula for even the big tracks. And until we get some federal money to pay for federal oversight, I mean, we're talking about a $50 billion economic impact on the country, our industry, and we need $50 million from the federal government to do what they told us we had to do, which is have HISA in place. It's just tough for everybody, and the viability of these smaller racetracks is one of the biggest problems we have in the game.
What? The question I have is, why do the smaller tracks are the ones that seem to be getting screwed on this?
They're not. That's not the way it's going. what they're doing is they're making everybody pay even based on the number of starts. And it's even going to be worse in Pennsylvania because outside of Florida, they average the most starts per horse of any state. But the bigger tracks were getting screwed before when it was based on handle and starts. So there's really not a formula that can take the amount of money out of the game that needs to be taken out to pay for HISA that works. We need federal funding.
What does this money pay? What does it go for? I'm in the dark on that. The money that's paid out to HISA, what do they spend it on?
Investigation, testing. I mean, you can go look at the HISA budget. It is what it is. And a lot of people say that they overspend. I don't know. This is a big problem for everybody. This is why Churchill and HISA now are in a lawsuit. This whole thing was ill-conceived. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it if it worked, if we did it right, and if we had some funding for it. But it was just thrown on top of us without any way to pay for it. Everybody's trying to come up with a formula to pay for it, and the bottom line is our industry can't afford it.
I mean, it would seem to like some of these places might have to take money out of their purse structure to pay for this stuff, and that's going to just ruin it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do in Kentucky. Half the money comes out of the purse structure. We're lucky there because we've got a big purse structure. But, you still have to take care of the smaller racetracks around the country.
I mean, I think that Emerald, they have like a $6 million purse for the coming year. I mean, if they have to dip into that, you're going to see horsemen leaving left and right, aren't you?
Yeah, they can't survive.
Yeah, the bottom line, former Kentucky Senator Damon Thayer pointed this out when he joined me earlier in the program, and, of course, he pointed it out on his social media page earlier this week, that HISA is a federal government mandate. So the federal government really should be responsible for paying for those fees. Otherwise, more tracks are going to enter into this situation. They're going to close, they're going to opt out, and they'll forego all the simulcasting export revenue that comes along with it, too. So that's another big part of the puzzle here. And Dale, it comes back to what you just said. Federal funding is really the only way out of this situation right now.
It's the only answer, in my opinion.
But are they? But are they going to pay? The federal government doesn't want to pay it either, right?
No, but we're only talking $50 to $75 million to the federal government's multi-trillion-dollar budget on a mandate they forced to have to maintain a $50 billion economic impact on the country. It's a pretty good return on investment if they would pay for it.
Well, it's a big if.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very tough situation there. And Sean in Pennsylvania had a follow-up for you guys here, but I think we've kind of covered it. But he said, what's the one thing you want all fans and bettors to kind of think about as we try to reinvigorate the sport and deal with some of these types of issues? Dale, a few weeks ago, you said, hey, jump in. If you're looking to get into this sport, jump in. It's still the greatest sport played outdoors. What do you want people to think about when they consider being involved in horse racing on some level?
Well, I think they should be involved. I mean, the best way I think to get involved, if you just want to get in on the entry level, is to buy a part of a West Point horse and try the syndicate route on a small scale and see if you like it, can afford it, and if it works. But you know what else I'd like for people to do is everybody's betting on Gulfstream Park, Aqueduct, and Churchill Downs, which is great. We want you to continue to do it. Start focusing and learn a little bit about some of these smaller racetracks, and I think that you would like what's going on there. Get to know the players a little bit better. Everybody knows that Johnny Velasquez, but get to know the guys that are riding at Turfway Park and at Sunland Downs and wherever the racing is. And that level is a great level of racing. It's not G League like basketball. It's good quality racing. If we get some more people participating in some of these smaller racetracks, it'll help the whole game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I spend 4 days every year at the Pennsylvania Derby working for parks, and the people down there work very hard at putting out the best product they can. Because it's parks and people say, "Oh, that's a bush track," and it's not a bush track. They work just as hard as the people at Churchill. They apply in New York and California. I mean, it's the same game. Yeah, the horses aren't as big, as good a caliber, but that doesn't mean they don't work just as hard as the people at the other tracks. And it's they get a bad rap, in my opinion, the smaller.
Yeah, those horses might not run as fast, but they're just as competitive, and it's a lot of fun at that level too.
I agree 100%.
Yep. Yeah, great points. Absolutely. All right, one more topic before our West Point of the week, and this one involves some news out of Great Britain this week. The British Horse Racing Authority announced that they have changed the rules relating to a walkover. In a situation where a horse is the lone starter in a race, that horse will now be declared the winner without ever having to set foot on the track or, as in the past, be ridden past the winning post to collect the purse. It kind of sounds to me like an intentional walk situation in baseball. Guys, do you like that, love it, or hate it? And based on that answer, I guess, should this be something the U.S. should consider for racing here in this country? Tim?
I love it. It's the right thing to do. Why put a horse through it would just be a gallop around the track and a walkover, but you never know what could happen whenever a horse steps on a track. And, if there's no competition there, why should he have to go and run around the track? I think it's the result that's going to be that's going to be that's going to come about anyway. He's going to be the winner. He or she's going to be the winner. So why make him run around the track? Yeah, give him the intentional pass. Love it. We should do it.
I couldn't care less, and I want to know who came up with this silly question to end our show today. There hasn't been a walkover in the United States since a spectacular bid that I can remember. So who really cares? Move on to the next question.
Well, I guess that moves us to the West Point of the week then. Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin.
Who wrote this part of the script?
Yours truly. You don't find this very interesting? I find this is an interesting development.
Oh, it's super interesting. If we can't fire the boss, but if it wasn't you, they had to have to roll.
All right, well, let's move on to the West Point of the week. Now that we've got
you
Dale.
To blame me for that one.
All fired up.
I was hoping it was you, Tim. I was hoping you had written that one.
Listen, hey, when you're involved with West Point thoroughbreds, owning a racehorse with West Point means that you are in the care of complete professionals who guide you through your ownership journey. You'll get instant access to the highest levels of racing, world-class trainers like our man Dale Romans. You'll get world-class jockeys, racetracks, and, of course, your horse. West Point thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Tim Wilkin, what is your West Point of the week?
Well, 4 hours before they run the Florida Derby today, White Abarrio is going to be running in the Grade 3 Ghost Zapper at Gulfstream Park. It's sort of like, he's he's the headliner of the day because he's one of the top handicap horses in the country, and it's interesting to me that it's almost like he's buried with all the other stories with racing going on today in Arkansas and Florida. But hopefully he runs like a 1-9 shot should and gets ready to move on to bigger and better things like the Met Mile.
Yeah, I just want to point out what a tough job jockeys have. I know I've gone on the soapbox before, but I wish well to Tyler Gabriel and Junior Alvarado. It's at all levels of that game, being a jockey is not an easy job. Tough life, and hope you guys get better quick and get back to business.
Amen to that. Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin. Guys, we're going to do it all over again next weekend. Dale, safe travels back to the Bluegrass from South Florida. Tim, enjoy the races this weekend. We'll talk again next Saturday morning.
Next week from Kentucky.
All right, Mike. Dale, see ya.
If you have a topic you would like to hear Dale and Tim discuss, I guess maybe you could do it better than I could, according to Dale. Email the topic to me, Mike@horseracingradio.net. We'll get it worked into the show for you. You can also post it on our social media pages. I Ask the Answer is presented every week by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business. I'm back with more and the answer to this week's impossible trivia question next. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Free health care, hundreds to more than $1,000 per month in disability compensation, and tens of thousands for college tuition. These are just some of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs benefits that may be available to veterans. VA is focused on customer service like never before. Choose VA and see why veterans' trust in VA reached an all-time high. Claim the benefits you've earned at choose.va.gov.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcasts using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
And a holy bull, a big afternoon, leads it by 3.5, now 4 lengths as they come to the top of the stretch in the Florida Derby. Halo's Image second, Ride the Rail third, Gold for Gin fourth, Dramatic Gold. Now with 1/8 of a mile to go. Holy Bull has led every step of the way and has a commanding 4.5, now 5 lengths lead. The battle will be for second. Halo's Image, Ride the Rail to Gold for Gin. A dramatic performance this afternoon by Holy Bull.
You knew I wasn't going to let a Florida Derby Day show go by without bringing on the great Holy Bull. 1994 renewal of the Florida Derby at Gulfstream Park. The late Ross Morton with the call, one of the great unique voices in thoroughbred racing that we've ever had. And that was quite a day for the connections of Holy Bull, who rebounded from that poor effort where he flipped the pallet in the Fountain of Youth the previous race, and he would go on to the Kentucky Derby. And, of course, Go for Gin got him that day, but Holy Bull went on to a spectacular career, as we all know. Don't forget that the Blood Horse in April features jockey Flavien Prat's rise to the top, Cole Battle, who continues his path to the Kentucky Derby, and a candid conversation with the incoming Jockey Club chairman, Everett Dobson, and much, much more. They're all packed into the latest issue. You can become a subscriber for as little as $59 or purchase a single issue at bloodhorse.com. Well, it's time now to check in with Lee Delapina with the answer to this week's impossible trivia question. Lee?
Thanks, Mike. What other race was originally known as the Florida Derby until they changed the name in 1937? The answer is the Flamingo Stakes. It was a 1 1/8 race for 3-year-olds run at Tampa Bay and Hialeah Park as the Florida Derby until they changed the name in 1937.
I hope you were able to get that one right this morning. Tune in next Saturday morning here on the Equine Forum for another impossible trivia question. Boy, what a show, huh? It's been just busy over the course of the last 3 hours. Covered an awful lot of ground, as we typically do here on Saturday morning. Kicked it off with Jake and Jeff Delhomme. My thanks to them for joining me to look back on Touchuponastar's big upset of Sierra Leone in the New Orleans Classic last weekend. Brian Nadeau had you covered with all the handicapping insight from South Florida and Gulfstream Park. That was in the first hour of the program. Hour number 2 kicked off with Damon Thayer, former Kentucky Senator, talking about the situation facing smaller racetracks with the increase in HISA fees. He also touched on decoupling in South Florida. My thanks to Lonnie Briley for being here as well. Brad Cox. All of this part of a jam-packed show. And, of course, you heard from James Scully with the TwinSpires Triple Play, Kurt Becker with the Stroll Through Racing History, and my thanks to Dale and Tim in the previous segment. I can't believe Dale didn't like that question. I love it, though, when he voices his opinion. Never short on opinions. Dale Romans. All right, if you missed any portion of the show, head back to our website, horseracingradio.net, to check out the podcast. You can do that, too, on every podcast platform. So wherever you get your podcast, type in Horse Racing Radio Network and follow along with this show and all the shows we bring your way every single week. My thanks to our producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studios, to Chauncey for handling all of our social media again this morning. I'm Mike Penna. Enjoy a spectacular day of thoroughbred racing, and thanks for listening to the Equine Forum. Go Steelers.